Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you and a happy Friday, you wonderful people. It's 3 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you, Lloydie, as ever until 6. The cracking show awaits. Here's what's on today's menu. Top story today, Prince Harry has a right royal nightmare. Prince Harry announced his return to Britain this week, but so far it's been a right royal disaster. Today, Harry was hammered with his share of a whopping £9.5 million legal bill at the Royal High Court. And meanwhile, Wills and Kate are said to have no interest to engage with the Sussexes. We'll have all the latest on this right royal disaster. And Brits were horrified this week when the Home Office printed a how not to rape guide for immigrants. But it seems that the Afghan monsters, Khan Aga and Nurullah Amdazi, didn't read that book. The pair were convicted of repeatedly raping a woman at knife point in a London park. Is it time to declare a women's safety emergency? Meanwhile, police in France have prevented 185 small boat crossings in 3 months. A shocking new footage shows them being attacked by violent migrants attempting to cross the English Channel. We'll have all the latest reaction to this breaking news story. And 6 years after the death of George Floyd, the serial criminal, Premier League footballers are once again set to take the knee. This time they claim to mark Black History Month. Today we'll be asking, is this actually a show of racial solidarity or an outdated, pointless and divisive virtue signal? And a majority of Londoners think London Mayor Sadiq Khan should step down because quality of life in the capital is plunging. 55% think London is worse now than when Sir Sadiq was elected 10 years ago, with just 19% saying London has improved. With a lack of affordable housing and crime the top of the gripes, should Mayor Khan make way? And a very, very special happy birthday to the world's oldest person, Ethel Caterham from Surrey. She turns 117 years young today, and we're paying tribute to her and finding out how we could all live as long as Ethel. And that's all coming up in your next hour. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. Well, it's fair to say things have got off to a pretty disastrous start for Prince Harry, haven't they? The returning royal has stepped right into a £9.5 million legal blunder. He's been hammered today at the High Court. His case, his doomed phone hacking case, was called unreasonable to a high degree. Meanwhile, the Wills and Kate have met with the King at Balmoral for a Sussex summit. Apparently, they said they want nothing to do with the returning Sussexes. So far, so bad for the returning royals, and we'll have all the latest on that throughout today's show. Get in touch, gbnews.com/you'll say is the way to do so, or scan the QR code on your screens now. But enough from me. There's your headlines, and here's Tatiana Sanchez.
Martin, thank you very much and good afternoon. The top stories. Prince Harry and a group of 6 other high-profile figures have been ordered to make an initial payment of £9.54 million to the Daily Mail's publisher after they lost their High Court privacy case. The claimants, including Sir Elton John and Liz Hurley, sued Associated Newspapers Limited over allegations of unlawful information gathering, which A&L has denied. On the 7th of July, Judge Mr Justice Nicklin dismissed the claims and said the public figures had failed to prove the allegations. Associated Newspapers has described the ruling as a devastating critique of an attempt to destroy a newspaper and the reputations of its journalists, editors and executives. Meanwhile, security for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex upon their return to the UK could cost millions of pounds, a former police chief says, as uncertainty remains over how protection for the couple is to be funded. Prince Harry and Meghan's plan to move back to Britain was revealed on Wednesday night. The couple's children have already been enrolled in their new schools, but little else is known about the royal homecoming, beyond the fact they'll be living in a non-royal residence just outside London. Meanwhile, Meghan could return to acting once back in the UK, according to a report. The development has reignited questions about the Sussex's security, with Harry having lost a legal battle with the government last year after his protection was downgraded due to no longer being a working royal. Footage has emerged showing French police coming under attack as they attempted to intercept a migrant boat. Officers can be seen using pava spray to disperse migrants before deflating the dinghy by slashing it with a knife. It comes as a new elite French police unit has stopped 12 so-called taxi boats travelling up the coast to pick up migrants waiting to cross the channel into Britain. The operation is part of the new £662 million UK-France deal aimed at tackling channel crossings. French police units have prevented 185 small boat crossing attempts in the first 3 months of the deal. Kemi Badenoch spoke today.
I don't believe that we're getting value for money from France with this deal to stop migrant crossings. The crossings are getting higher and higher. The government is saying that they've reduced them, but the last 3 months have been worse than the 3 months beforehand. The real problem is that Labour came into office and stopped the Rwanda plan. That was the third country deterrent that meant the people coming to our country illegally would be processed elsewhere. Labour stopped that plan. They didn't have any other plan in place. They're asking France to help. France has an even bigger problem than we do. So what I say is that Labour should look at our borders plan. We have a proper plan that will put this to an end. That borders plan does mean we need to leave the ECHR, use our own rights, our own laws in this country to maintain rights, and stop the boats permanently.
In other news, several people have been wounded in a sword attack at a high school in Sweden. The perpetrator was shot by the police in the leg, according to a local newspaper. The rampage took place at the Brunel School in Fagersta. And the world's oldest person is celebrating her 117th birthday after a year of many firsts, including meeting the King and holding his hand. Ethel Caterham, who lives at Hallmark Lakeview Care Home in Lightwater in Surrey, is spending the day with her family and friends to mark the occasion today. In a statement, she said, "Thank you for all of the kind birthday wishes. Even at 117, I've had many firsts this year, from stroking a llama to holding hands with the King." Those are the latest headlines. Back to Martin.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Thank you, Tatiana. Breaking news from the past hour, and it's bad news for Prince Harry, because Prince Harry and 6 other high-profile figures will have to cough up the Daily Mail's publisher over £9.5 million after spectacularly losing their High Court case. Now, the group, including lovies like Sir Elton John and Baroness Doreen Lawrence, sued Associated Newspapers over allegations of unlawful information gathering. But today, I'm afraid it was terrible news for Prince Harry and co. Let's now speak with GB News' royal correspondent Cameron Walker, who is there for us outside the Royal Court of Justice. Cameron Walker, the week from hell is just getting worse for Prince Harry. £9.5 million legal bill today. Wills and Kate, we hear, want nothing to do with returning Sussexers, and only 21% of the British public even want them to come home. But let's start with today's terrible, expensive news for Prince Harry.
Yeah, very expensive, Martin. Yeah, millions of pounds, £9.5 million. He and the other 6 claimants are going to have to fork out initially, I hasten to add, to Associated Newspapers. Now, just to bring people up to speed, Harry and the others were suing the newspaper group, the publisher of the Mail, over alleged unlawful information gathering. They spectacularly lost their case, and I think the judge in his kind of ruling today, I think the best kind of summing up of what he was saying was that their claims were chaotic. The way that they were argued in court by their lawyers was chaotic, and that is putting it mildly, I think. Now, the judge ruled that the cost should be calculated, that they have to pay back Associated Newspapers towards their legal costs as an indemnity basis. Now, this basically means that Associated Newspapers are far more likely to recover much more of their legal costs. The reason the judge says that it is going to be on an indemnity basis is because the claimants brought such a wide-ranging and broad number of issues to the table to the judge to consider, including very, very serious criminal allegations against a number of Mail and Mail on Sunday journalists, and indeed, of course, the integrity of Associated Newspapers as a whole. That meant, according to Associated Newspapers' arguments, that they had to spend far more money defending themselves, and it appears the judge has agreed. The judge says that the case was conducted in an unreasonable way. The case was exceptionally broad. The serious allegations were named against many named people. Some allegations were pursued without enough evidence, the judge says as well, and some of the allegations were actually withdrawn halfway through the trial, and the claims that had not formed part of the original case were then put to witnesses during the trial, all of which the judge believes was unreasonable. The judge did not find, however, Prince Harry, Elton John or any of the other claimants dishonest. The judge said that basically they gave their claims or delivered their claims with the best of intentions. Nonetheless, they spectacularly lost. So what happens now? Well, they all are going to have to pay the £9.5 million in costs to Associated Newspapers in the interim, but then a specialist judge has to look at what other costs they believe they owe Associated Newspapers. Now, the 9.5 is likely actually to be covered by insurance, but that only runs to about £18 million. So if the judge rules they owe Associated Newspapers any more than £18 million, well, it's coming out of their own pocket, Martin, so there could be a lot more money to pay for Prince Harry.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, could we ask you about the so-called Sussex Summit? We've heard of Wills and Kate going to see the King at Balmoral, the rumour has it. This is all obviously talking about, OK, so they're coming back. What does that mean for the royal family? And we're hearing they don't want anything to do with the Sussexes.
Yeah, I think this story is an interesting one because it is August and the royal family have plans, as they do every August since the time of Queen Victoria, to be up at Balmoral on a family holiday. I just think it's perhaps coincidence that the Prince and Princess of Wales and the King and Queen and Princess Anne and her extended family are up at Balmoral at the same time during the same week that it's been announced that Harry and Meghan are returning to the UK. Nonetheless, the King only found out, as we said yesterday, 3 days before that Harry and Meghan were moving back to Britain, and no doubt the Sussex conversation would have been brought up, Martin, and I would love to be a fly on the wall for that conversation. Officially, Kensington Palace are not commenting. I'm told they were informed in advance, as I said. I think for William at least, and I think Hannah Furness, who's the royal editor of The Telegraph, she put it quite well last night. He's a pragmatic prince, you know, he's future king here, and anyone who claims to know what Prince William is thinking is probably for the birds. I think from the King and William's perspective, they will be focused on the real monarchy, the constitutional monarchy, and carrying out the engagements to the best of their ability and trying to ignore the Sussex noise. Having said that, it is going to be far more difficult for William to avoid his younger brother if they are living in the same country, particularly if the ailing king, who does continue cancer treatment, wants to invite Harry and Meghan to Christmas, for example.
How many times have you and I said over these past couple of years, you know, how about Meghan just gets back into acting? You know, she's half decent at it. You know, surely she could get back into some TV or movie roles, and it seems she may have been listening to us.
Well, Martin, you're right, because Meghan has been offered an acting role in the UK. We don't have details yet, We know that it's an acting role based in Britain. We don't know if it's a film, we don't know if it's a TV show, we don't know if it's an American production or a British production, but what we do know is that it is going to be filmed in the UK. And the royal author Tina Brown has written a great column about this, and she is essentially speculating perhaps that the reason Harry has managed to persuade Meghan to come to the UK, who, let's be frank, appears to be enjoying his time in the UK when he's here doing charity engagements, is because Meghan can get back into acting. So perhaps that was one of the catalysts for the big Sussex move and the huge U-turn, reversing 6 years of Megxit.
Well, Cameron Walker, it's been certainly a busy week for the Sussexers, and if it is a return to acting that beckons, I've had a bit of fun with ChatGPT. Let's get this on the screen here. I think it's the perfect role for the returning Sussexers. Look, the traitors, Harry and Meghan. There they are in their capes with their mischievous letter. Look at the looks on their faces. It's almost an insight into how they're going to perform in the royal court. Cameron Walker, superb, very, very good indeed. You've certainly been a busy bee this week. See you in the next hour, Cameron Walker. Let's get to my next guest now. I'm delighted to be joined by the royal journalist and the author, Robert Jobson. Robert, it's a pleasure to have your company. Over 30 years of Fleet Street excellence under your belt as a royal correspondent. You've seen them come, you've seen them go. Do you think today Harry has had his comeuppance?
Well, it's not as bad as it could have been. They were talking about 36 million plus, weren't they? I think it's probably not as bad for him as it is for, say, Baroness Lawrence, who was persuaded to get involved in this crazy scheme to try to sue the Daily Mail, Associated Newspapers, Man on Sunday. I mean, my view is I think it would have been a good thing, rather than call this a whitewash, but is to apologise to the journalists at the Daily Mail and the Man on Sunday. They've been through 3 years of hell, thinking their careers are over, and only to be completely vindicated for their professionalism in their trade. So I personally think it would have been much better for that. I don't think he's done himself any good by calling the process a whitewash when, you know, there's a process involved in King's Counsel, and it's one of the sort of bedrocks of our society, of which the King is supposed to be making sure he stands over. No, I think he's probably got off lightly, really, actually. 9 million, I think he could have expected more than that. I'm sure that somewhere along the line that Parr will help out. Unlike Cameron, I don't think this has come as any surprise to the King that this was happening. We've only been given guidance, or there's been guidance that he was told about this on Sunday. It doesn't really none of this really adds up. The kids have been enrolled in schools. It takes a little longer than a few weeks to sort that out, even if you are Prince Harry. I mean, if you're Mick Jagger, you don't phone up a school and say your kids are coming next week. It just doesn't work like that. So I think we're being led along a line by the official side of things. The Sussex team are playing a divide and rule game, leaking the story to certain media outlets and not to others. They knew that this money was due to be paid, the money, it was going to be the lead story, and they decided to get ahead of it. I cannot see, I personally, unlike a lot of people saying, oh, Harry will just play a private role in this country, I cannot see that happening. The Daily Mail will be obviously in other news outlets, will be all over any commercial deal that's happening. You need to have members of the royal family on the same grid. You know, they're part of our democratic process, a constitutional monarchy and a parliamentary democracy. You can't have one member of the royal family sort of off doing different jobs, uncoordinated in this country, and you can't have two rival courts. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I would think that the King is probably trying to bring an end to all of this friction. But this is a crown divided. It's a serious problem for the monarchy. The fact that we're talking about it so often now on the television is bringing us, I think, bringing this country and the system of monarchy into ill repute.
Robert, specifically about the court case, we all recall Leveson. You know, you worked at The Sun, you worked at the News of the World, as did I in previous times. There was the feeling, and there was a feeling, was there not, that the newspapers must be guilty, because there was this historic legacy of hacking. And Hugh Grant, perhaps, you know, kind of fanned Harry along into this. And at the end of the day, they just didn't have the proof. It didn't stand up to the burden of evidence. It was a naive case all along, was it not?
I think we should get this right to start with. The Sun settled with the Sussex suit. There was no victory for Harry. That was a settlement. The Mirror decided to give on it, and the Daily Mail, thank the Lord, decided to say no. Our journalists, and in my role as deputy of the London Press Club, this has been a big issue for a lot of journalists over the years, and particularly, excellent journalists. Their crime correspondent, their royal correspondent, Richard Kay, who was, their columnist, Rebecca English, all these very, excellent journalists who've got great experience, and they've been put through the mill. I feel an apology is actually in order. As to the way that the scope it was dealt with. Harry, I think, is lost in around about 1999 on maybe even 1997. It's 30 years ago since his mother died next year. The landscape of the journalism has changed radically since that time. And yes, Leveson changed a lot of that as well. And a lot of people, who lost their jobs at various organisations like the News of the World and whatever, there was issues that needed to be dealt with, and they were dealt with. But we're now in 2026, and the landscape has changed. A lot of the journalists operating now were at school at the time and were brought up to learn about Leveson at their journalism colleges. It is ridiculous that he thinks that he's changing and crusading to change journalism, because he's not. He's doing something for his own means. Now, Lord Justice Nicknam was quite within his rights to actually feel aggrieved at the way that his considered judgment was called a whitewash by this prince who, had also suing the elected government, and also taking on the free press whilst living abroad. These are three pillars of our society in which we live, in which the king, the constitutional monarch, is there to uphold. Now he thinks he can come back and start and continue in that way, and everyone's going to forgive him. Well, I think that, funny and strange enough, having covered the royals for 37 years, I do think actually a lot of people do, when they go around the royals, go a little gaga, to be honest. They forget everything else. I've been at places where there've been protests. I remember one distinctly in New Zealand, a Republican protest. Within seconds of the royal, or before they turned up, everyone went and put their flags down and almost started applauding. So I do think that people go a little gaga, but I do think we mustn't really think that in any way Harry's been a champion for the press, against the press and for the ordinary man. This is all about collecting money, and he's collected a lot of money in these cases. But, he settled with the News of the World, News UK. He didn't win, and he lost overwhelmingly here. But, he's a multimillionaire. He made how many millions from Spare when he breached the privacy of his own family? Many, many millions. So this, for him, is probably not that much money. But for people like Doreen Lawrence or Liz Hurley, who I know and actually appeared alongside in that programme, The Royals, which I did, this is a lot of money. And I'm sure there will be a lot of people think Harry, and he's got to look at himself and think, did I lead people? What happened here? I should have really... Was this all about changing the press of 2026? Or was this really a personal vendetta against the media? And really, a lot of those journalists, if this had not been Mr. Justice Nickton had not seen the system as it was, this could have ended terribly for those journalists. A lot of them really have been in a terrible state. And I feel it's appalling. And it would have been damaging, too, to a free press, because the Daily Mail, in a way, is one of the... is truly old Fleet Street, who who's out there to right wrongs and reveal things where things have gone wrong.
All right. Robert Jobson, thank you very, very much. Fascinating stuff. And I just wanted to have that conversation about the journalists that have been smeared, used as kind of emotional punch bags. They've been vindicated. The press has been cleared. It's really important to mark that and to say the newspapers have a right to do their jobs. And thank you for all your work. And I really appreciate your time today, Robert Jobson. Superb. Thank you very much indeed for coming on, my friend. Now, Time for the Great British Giveaway, and it's your final chance. That's it. This is the moment to win 60 grand in tax-free moolah and a 5 grand real gold bar. It's all tax-free, and the lines close at 4 o'clock, so you've got less than 40 minutes to get in. Here's your favourite, Hayley Sparks, with all of the final details.
Hello from Downhall Hotel and Spa here in Essex. I'm here to tell you about the Great British Giveaway because time is running out. Lines close at 4 p.m. today. You could win a whopping £60,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Maybe you'd have a luxury stay somewhere like here, put a new car in the drive, pay off the mortgage. The choice would be yours. You could also win a £5,000 gold bar. This would be a great investment for yourself, maybe for the grandchildren, for your children. You could see what it would be worth in 10 years' time. That's a combined prize value of £65,000. Remember, it's completely tax-free and we'll be with you in September. We have one guaranteed winner. We're counting down the hours, the minutes, the seconds. Lines close at 4 p.m. today. One text is all it takes and you could be our guaranteed winner. Here are all the details you need.
For a chance to win £60,000 in tax-free cash and a real gold bar, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good at that. Now then, 6 years after the death of the serial criminal George Floyd, Premier League footballers are once again set to take the knee. Why? We'll be asking, is this a show of racial solidarity or is it an outdated, pointless and even divisive virtue signal? And also next, Brits were horrified this week when the Home Office printed a how not to rape guide for immigrants. But it seems that these two Afghan monsters didn't get that message. They repeatedly raped a woman at knife point in a London park while her boyfriend looked on. Is it time to declare a women's safety national emergency? That's the debate next here on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts,
5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news,
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
The late edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, late edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, late edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Time is 3:28 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Just a warning now, the details of the next story may contain some distressing content because in yet another shocking case, 2 Afghan monsters have been convicted of raping a woman at knife point in East London. The young victim had been stargazing with another man on their first date as he played the guitar to her. That didn't stop Khan Aga and Norla Amdai attacking the woman in Barking Park last August. Now, Amdai raped the woman while Aga held a knife to her date's throat and threatened to kill him if he called police. Now, the news of this, of course, follows the ongoing row, the fury over a Home Office move to hand out leaflets to illegal immigrants, reinforcing the need for consent in what's being called a guide on how not to rape British women and children. Let's now speak with the founder of the Pink Ladies activist group, Lorraine Kavanagh. Lorraine, it's a pleasure to have your company. You know, here we go again. 2 more Afghans who clearly didn't get the memo. They clearly didn't read the Home Office's How Not to Rape Women guide. They destroyed another woman's life at knife point as the boyfriend watched on their first date out together. And Lorraine, all I can say to you is, how much more of this can we take?
Well, first of all, Martin, I'm thankful the government's recognised it at last, yeah? Secondly, you know, it's all in English, so, you know, they need to sort that out. And someone that's been raped and they read this, they could go to prison, they could lose their accommodation and they could lose their asylum claim. How degrading is that? How degrading is that? And I mean, I sit here now and I'm thinking, we should be making our own guide of expectations of the asylum seekers. You know, stay out of our children's parks, keep them inside the barracks, no alcohol. These, you know, we should be doing the same. This is absolutely ridiculous. And this guide was made for the far right to say, there you go, we have done something. OK, so when this happens, like these 2 monsters, they say, we tried. You know, we tried. But, you know, it's another young girl's life finished, ruined. And what is the answer? It's detain, deport. There is only one answer. Detain, deport. I mean, I'm looking at a screen now at them. You know, they're filth. They're absolute filth.
Lorraine,
I'm sorry.
a lot of people are going to... A lot of people, you know, you're emotional, you're angry, and who can blame you? Because, you know, how many times have you and I even just covered these cases? Yeah. You started the Pink Ladies activist group as a specific and direct reaction to the fact that you know that women and children are scared. And when you and others, and this channel and other activists out there said that, the government's response was to say, well, stop being racist, pipe down. You're increasing community tensions. And time again, Lorraine, the community tensions have been stoked by rapes. They've been stoked by these monsters coming and violating British women and children. Lorraine, I want to ask you a specific question. You and I, and a lot of people have known for some time that we've got a problem with certain misogynistic rape cultures we're importing. Do you believe that the publication of this monstrous How Not to Rape guide at least is an acknowledgement from the Home Office and the government that we've got a serious problem here?
Oh, yes, 100%. 100%. They've actually turned around and said, we have a problem. What that doesn't do is tell you how they're going to solve it. That's telling that guy, them two guys there, not to rape. So they've done it. So you may lose your accommodation. You may lose your support. And I read it, and it was, if you don't understand, please speak to one of the employers in your accommodation. It's infuriating, Martin. As you said, we've been here before, and when we went back last year, our Pink Ladies are in Tower Hamlets, and we was taken to Tower Hamlets Council, and we was classed as, the Pink Ladies was classed as far right. And then the following week, we had all those Muslim boys marching through Brick Lane. You know, nothing was done about it. And our children can't play out on the street. And they've completely changed our way of living, our British way of living, of playing out on the street and chalking on pavements. That don't happen anymore. And it's unfair as well, because every time you see a stranger's face, you automatically think they're gonna attack. And that's not fair either, because there are people out there that have you know, come and joined and took on board what they've said. But I don't know what the answer is. The only answer I can see is detain and deport.
Lorraine,
I'm sorry if I get angry, but I just think that there's another young girl from Barking whose life has been completely finished because of these two who reckon they were teenagers. They were underage. No, I'm sorry. This is not even in their language. This is not even it. That's the excuse they're going to come out with. I didn't understand because it's written in English.
Okay. Lorraine, I can sense your exasperation, and who can blame you?
I've got granddaughters.
Thank you, Lorraine. We're going to speak again, no doubt, and I hope we can try and find some sort of resolution. But thank you for coming on the show today. The founder of the Pink Ladies activist group, Lorraine Kavanagh. Thank you very much. Now, Home Office spokesperson told GB News this: we expect everyone who comes to the UK to abide by our laws. If they do not, they will face consequences, including the refusal of their asylum claim and removal from the UK. Returns of failed asylum seekers have reached their highest level since 2010 under this government. And if you've been affected by anything discussed today, then the Rape Crisis England and Wales support line is open 24 hours a day, every day of the year. Simply ring 0808 500 2222. It's completely free. Or you can visit their website to start a free online chat. Still to come, 6 years after the death of George Floyd, the serial criminal, Premier League football players are once again set to take the knee. Why? Is this a show of racial solidarity, or let's face it, is it an outdated, pointless and divisive virtual signal? That's next, but first it's time for your belated news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Martin, thank you. The top stories. Prince Harry and 6 other high-profile figures will have to pay the Daily Mail's publisher an initial payment of £9.5 million after losing their High Court case. The Duke of Sussex, Elton John and others sued Associated Newspapers Limited over allegations of unlawful information gathering. Meanwhile, security for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex upon their return to the UK could cost millions of pounds, a former police chief says, as uncertainty remains over how protection for the couple is to be funded. And footage has emerged showing French police coming under attack as they attempted to intercept a migrant boat. Officers can be seen using pava spray to disperse migrants before deflating the dinghy by slashing it with a knife. Those are your headlines for now. More at the top of the hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Showers for many of us during the rest of the day, but not for all. Some places will be dry with sunny spells. Wherever you are, it's going to feel on the cool side, certainly compared with summer so far, and indeed compared with what we'd expect at this time of year. A northerly breeze bringing those showers, especially to western, southwestern, as well as eastern shores, and those showers will continue into the evening, mostly southern parts of the UK, seeing the showers continuing inland, away from the coast. The showers eventually break away and clear skies prevail. 12 or 13 Celsius in the south, 8 to 11 further north, and in some shelter spots, low single figures, So for sheltered parts of Scotland and northern England, for example, a chilly start to Saturday. A touch warmer further south, but certainly fresher compared with so many mornings this summer. Plenty of sunshine through southern parts of England as well as into Wales. Further showers running into North Wales, northwest England, 1 or 2 trickling down the North Sea. Northern Ireland seeing a scattering of showers, likewise for the northwest of Scotland. In between, brighter spells. The showers nowhere near as frequent or as heavy compared with the second half of this week. We're looking at a general settling down of the weather heading into the weekend. High pressure building back, but this high is going to be a cooler high and temporary. Return to low pressure expected from next Tuesday. Temperatures up into the high teens, perhaps low 20s in places. So again, below average for the time of year. A notable cool feel compared with so many days this summer. Any showers that we do see on Saturday tend to fade away on Saturday night. Another chilly start in places on Sunday. Sunday's a mostly dry day, sunny in the south, cloudier further north, and then it's through next week we see the rain return.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The A31 is closed at Junction 2 in Ringwood, and the M27 westbound is closed between Junctions 4 and 3 in Southampton West. The M25 clockwise is affected by a collision between Junctions 5 and 6 in Sevenoaks. In Scotland, the M77 northbound has a queue between Junctions 1 and 2. Across Wales, the M4 eastbound from J30 Cardiff Gate to J26 Malpas is congested with possible delays. And on the trains, Greater Anglia has major disruption between Shenfield and Southend Victoria, and Avanti West Coast services are disrupted between Milton Keynes and Watford Junction. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's 20 to 4. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News on this beautiful Friday afternoon. Now then, football fans, rejoice. The Premier League is back starting tomorrow. The new season will kick off actually 8 p.m. this evening. Of course, defending champions Arsenal take on the newly promoted Coventry City at the Emirates in what could be a baptism of fire. But of course, this comes, it's been revealed today that players will be performing the so-called anti-racist gesture of taking the knee on 2 occasions during October's Black History Month. Here's today's debate. Is this really a show of racial solidarity, or is it now an outdated, pointless and perhaps even divisive virtue signal? I'm delighted now to be joined by the Chair of Communities Against Violence, great friend of the channel, Ken Hines. Ken, it's always a pleasure to have your company. Now, I think all of us can agree that there was a huge point of reflection back in 2020 when George Floyd died. But seriously, 6 years on, is there any need for this?
I welcome, and I'm really humbled that they're still doing this, because I think after watching what happened with George Floyd, I really feel at the end of the day that this is a positive way of bringing back that graphic moment. So let us not forget about the ugly side of racism. I'm here with my daughter. She's autistic. So please, so don't worry about that. So yes, as I said, it's very. I think you know what, because the footballers are iconic players, are iconic people, and they can reach a vast amount of the public. And I feel at the end of the day that we should never forget what took place, and the effect it still has on people like me. And if it's me, what about others who feel like me? And to know that we've got these amazing players who have taken it on themselves to continue taking the knee. I welcome that.
Ken, the issue is, you saw on your screens there, the former Brentford player Ivan Toney played for England in the summer. He stopped doing this gesture at the time. He said players are being used as puppets. There was no punishment anywhere in the game. One of my team's former players, Lyle Taylor at Nottingham Forest, he said he objected to taking the knee because it was associated with Black Lives Matter. He described them as Marxist and politically motivated, which we now know to be true. And here's another thing, Ken. 55% of football fans, when they were polled recently, think it's not important to take the knee to tackle racism. It's performative. It doesn't really achieve anything. And I reckon this will happen, Ken. I think fans are going to boo this time. I think they're going to boo it, and that in itself will cause more division. It's had its time. It may have been good, but it's now time to show it the red card, Ken.
I disagree with Ivan Toney's point, but I will say, in anything you take on board, you're not going to get 100% of people coming on board. But I say again, particularly with the new administration that's in America and how they're trying to whitewash even their own history, I feel it's even more important for the rest of the world to remind them of what's happening in their backyard. And also...
But Ken, how will taking the knee in Coventry or Brentford have any impact whatsoever on Donald Trump? It's ridiculous.
But not only on Donald Trump, but also on the American. Because don't forget, we all got family around the world, or some of us, and some of them will have it in America. And this here will keep us on top of things in regard to what racism can do and has done, and to remind them that we should not forget the ugly face and the graphic way that George Floyd was murdered in front of our eyes because of his skin colour.
But Ken, well, that's not entirely true. I mean, he was a career criminal. There was a lot going on in that case. That's
come on. You're telling me,
he punched a pregnant woman in the stomach, Ken.
A dodgy note is worth dying for. That's incredible. He was no rapist. He was no paedophile. He was no murderer.
Ken, no one was saying he deserved to die. That no one would say that. But he was no messiah. He was no saint. And the point is this. 6 years on, you and I have a great rapport on this channel. I think you're amazing. I admire your work. I think you're a fantastic man. And here we are again arguing about something that happened 6 years ago. And that's kind of my point, Ken. I wonder if football fans will be doing the same. And it will just rev it all up again. And why not let bygones be bygones? Just enjoy the football.
Yeah, look, likewise, Martin, I've got nothing but honor for you and the work that you do and what you do and how you get me on your platform and you give me that space. So I welcome everything that you do. But there's going to be times when we are going to have a different opinion. But it may not land on you today, but it will land on you at some stage. Yes, because we all got our beliefs, but it can change over time. So I'm just trying to put it out there. I may not be right, but the fact of the matter is I'm speaking from my heart and I'm speaking from the spirit that I want to see a better way of doing things.
Right, Ken, I'm going to leave it there. Yeah, I really do think you're a fantastic bloke and love to your doors. I can tell you're having a great Friday afternoon. Ken Hines, thank you for your time. It's an absolute pleasure, as always. You might know that's the Chair of Communities Against Violence, Ken Hines. See, we can have fruitful disagreements without falling out. That's the point of this channel. Coming up next, we're discussing the unprecedented El Nino set to batter Britain after a heat wave. Guess what? An autumn of storms and winter. It's going to pour it down in Britain. So, if you're in search of some holiday sun elsewhere, here is the forecast for some of your top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Thunderstorms are affecting parts of southern Alpine regions. It's turning quite wet and windy across parts of Spain and Portugal throughout this weekend. That's thanks to this area of low pressure that will sweep up across parts of Portugal, Spain and then into France through the start of next week. Elsewhere, though, that thundery downpour across Alpine regions does tend to fade away into this weekend. And across the Mediterranean, it's looking nice and warm and sunny. And that theme does continue as we head into next week as well. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
I might shock you because I do understand why there are people that perhaps will need to take this because of medical issues. I get that, urgent medical issues. But let's face it, this is actually the greedy goods pill. That's what this is. Do I think it will make people lazy in society? Common sense, of course it will. We all want the magic pill. The concern, of course, with the pill, I'm sure the pharmacists will agree, is the potential side effects of these pills. We need to take personal responsibility in the UK. And at the moment, when it comes to health and many other things, we don't.
Thorin, I could see you shaking your head a little bit there. What do you think?
Well, look, it's not a magic pill. It's a medical intervention for a complex condition. I think calling people lazy is just an easy thing to do because it assumes that people who are struggling with weight just need more motivation.
The People's Channel. Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
I'm thrilled to say now I'm joined by another World War II veteran.
In my judgment, the Mosquito was a better aircraft because it's got 2 Spitfire engines.
And you flew it all over Europe. You told me that you had a particularly memorable flight near Berlin. What happened there?
A shell came up underneath, and it lifted up the aircraft and it interfered for a brief period with the fuel supply. I didn't know. All I knew was I'd got the propellers were windmilling around and we hadn't any power. And eventually the power came on again. And I leaned across to Doug, my navigator. He was a Canadian, a wonderful bloke. And I said to him, you weren't frightened, were you, Doug? And he said, no, I wasn't frightened, I was bloody terrified.
GB News.
We're only here for like 12 hours. We're flying home at 11 o'clock tonight.
Oh, and mummy and daughter.
Yeah, and it only costs £70, so we thought, well, why not? Because it's cheaper than a supermarket shop.
Supermarket shop or spending the day in Benidorm with cheap booze.
It's a no-brainer, isn't it? It's a no-brainer.
And is there no chance you might just decide we're going to stay?
No, because my husband would kill me.
We did consider it because I said to my mum earlier on, we might just stay and miss the flight, but she's not up for it.
Has your husband actually visited Benidorm on his own?
No, he hasn't. I've been here 27 times. That's my daughter's first time. She's a Benidorm virgin. But
well,
my husband's never been.
Not that he's told you anyway, let's put it like that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 4. You've been Martin Daubney here on GB News. Now brace yourselves because Britain is set for even more storms and rain this autumn and winter as forecasters warn of an unprecedented El Nino. Now the Met Office says Pacific sea temperatures could climb more than 3 degrees above average. Now that makes it the strongest event since the 19th century. Experts warn that food prices could also rise as weather patterns disrupt harvests across the globe. Let's now speak with the meteorologist Joe Wheeler. Joe, welcome to the show. A pleasure to have your company. It's Britain. Whenever the weather's good, it's guaranteed to be terrible afterwards, but this sounds off the scale. What's going on?
Well, agreed to a certain, extent. Ultimately, we've had a record-breaking summer. We've had record-breaking temperatures, days above a certain number of degrees. We've had all sorts going on. And there is absolutely no doubt that this El Nino is likely to be fairly powerful because an El Nino is announced when temperatures are 0.5 degrees Celsius above the long-term average. And we're looking at 3 degrees above that. So, yes, there is potential for it to have a greater impact than it has done in the past. And to be honest, the whole thing is a ripple effect. So whatever happens with El Nino in the Pacific takes a while to get to us, if indeed it even does. Yeah, but this time around, it could. Yeah, certainly with that kind of disparity between temperature and elsewhere. It could bring us some fairly stormy, wet weather early in autumn. It could bring us some cold weather come the end of the winter, but nothing of this is set in stone. There is so much else at play as well. And the whole thing about El Nino, it's steeped in history. I don't just say history. We have records going back to around 1860, but the records for El Nino go back to 1550. There are records talking about extensive rain, the fish quota falling and all sorts of things. And this was noticed by the Peruvian fishermen that some years they found that where they were fishing, they got no anchovies left. And
All right,
actually
Joe, we're going to have to leave it there because I'm being told the Prime Minister is delivering closing remarks at the UK's first Terrorism Victims' Day event. Let's go.
For the first time, who I've not got to know before. But from all of my experiences, what I do know is this. As the days pass and the world moves on, you can't. And we've heard that today so powerfully from Paul. You can't. There is no closure. Nothing is the same again, and every day brings pain. And you carry the grief of your loved ones, as we heard from Cheryl and Paul and others, and devastating, life-changing injuries and trauma. So this day does matter, as all the speakers have said. It is our way of saying that we see you, we hear you, we stand with you, and the whole country does too. I want to thank everyone who campaigned for this day to make it happen. And the victims and survivors of more than 20 atrocities. We think of those victims today, the loved ones that you lost, but we thank those who have stood strong in all those years since. And we thank everyone who's made the organisation of today possible. And Patrick, can I say to you as a representative of all of our emergency services today, people who attended the incidents that affected so many people here, but are still and forever in the memory of the country, can I thank you, and through you, all of those people who attended and supported people at those events and saved lives. We will never forget it. I want to say as Prime Minister that this gathering, and I'm proud too of the Security Minister who's worked to make this happen, it matters for another more difficult reason, and it's one that I can talk about perhaps in a way that the other speakers couldn't today. It helps bring forward change that the country needs, change in the way that we support people after these devastating and traumatic events. I know from the many hours I've spent with survivors in Manchester that too often people have not had the support that they deserved, and they've had to fight for it in the aftermath. Paul, I think I remember you making that point to me. I want to salute today some of the young survivors of the Manchester Arena attack. Alicia Taylor, Ellie Taylor, Abby Quinn, who bravely recounted their stories to the Be the Difference research project led by my friend, Dr. Kath Hill. And that was research into the way young survivors of the arena felt dismissed or misunderstood in education and healthcare settings, and that shouldn't be the case. I remember painfully how, to the inquiry that I set up in the aftermath of the attack, some of the authorities gave inaccurate accounts. And you can only begin to imagine the pain, the re-traumatization that caused in the people still struggling to this day as a result of that attack. And Cheryl, can I say to you directly and to all of the families that you have represented so powerfully today, and remembering your husband and everybody who died and was killed in Sousse. I remember you coming to see me when Manchester had rallied round to support those who'd been deeply affected by the attack at the Manchester Arena. You said to me, who's rallying round for us? And you made the point that people who have been victims of terrorism abroad, and I know we're joined today by people affected by the Bali bombing and the bombing in Brussels and others perhaps too. You made the point, who's rallying round for us? Where is the support for us in the same way? And that never that was something that I never forgot. We can do better, so much better. And today is about being honest about that, and it's important that I am honest about that, standing in front of you all. I know there are so many stories like the ones I've just recounted, held by so many of you in this room today. Sometimes you can be made to feel like you're the person who's done wrong, that you're on your own, that no one in the system is fighting for you. Well, speaking on behalf of my ministerial colleagues, and the Victims Minister is with us today too, we will fight for you. The government I lead will fight for you too. And I'm sure all of the politicians in the room would say the same. And this is because we understand something that's fundamentally important to recognise. And it's that the state, in my view, has a particular responsibility to you. And it's because the terrorists who attacked you and your loved ones were trying to attack us all. They were trying to attack British values, what this country stands for. And that is why we owe that duty to each and every one of you in return. And have we always fulfilled that duty to the highest level? I don't think I can stand before you today and say that we have. But today is a day to commit to be better, to do better, to take the inspiration from the words we've heard from you today and challenge ourselves to do more. And that is what we will do. We will work to fulfill that responsibility. Today's report from Survivors Against Terror, and we salute everything that you do as an organisation. It's hard to hear it, but it describes a promise half kept. I'm not interested in half promises. I want a promise fully kept. I've asked our Victims Minister, Alex Davis-Jones, to lead this work. And look, there are lots of specific proposals for how we should do it, from access to legal assistance and representation, to reforming the Criminal Injuries Compensation Authority. You will all have had perhaps your own experiences of these things, to looking at what we can learn from other countries like France and Spain. We'll look at them all. And on the question of consulting you all over a permanent national memorial to the victims and survivors of terrorism, of course, we will do this too. And I make that commitment to you today. Your voices must be at the heart of every decision about how we remember and recognise those affected by terrorism. With your help, we will change the way this country recognises and supports you, but most importantly, from here, obviously those in some ways coming after you, because that's what this country should do. I want to say this at the conclusion of my remarks. How we stand together in the moment of a terrorist act says so much about who we are, and Patrick eloquently described that. I have felt that myself. I felt it in Manchester last year when we came together in the aftermath of the synagogue attack, all communities standing together. However bleak we feel sometimes about the division that we see, that Thelma spoke about, the hatred expressed all too easily these days, when you see what happens in those moments, you see that the vast majority of the British public are who they have always been: fundamentally wonderful, decent, generous, ready to do anything to support each other. And long may our country be that country, and may we work together, all of us, to keep it that way. That's what this National Day demands, that we work together to achieve that. But it is something more too, and let me return to where I started, and that was my expression of profound admiration for you all. You are all a part of our national story. But as Dan said, none of you chose that, nor to be in the devastating position that you are. You were thrown against your will into the front line of our fight for our country's values. But thrown there, you stood tall. You refused to yield to terrorism's attempt to break and divide us. You fought to make things better for those coming after you. You worked to bring our communities together. So this day, to some degree, will be a day of the expression of our sympathy, but let's resolve to do this at the end. Let's resolve to make it much, much more than that as an annual day in the country's calendar. Let it forever be a day of recognition and celebration of the amazing people and families that you are, the very best of British and our country. Thank you very much, everybody.
That was the Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, there speaking at the closure of the National Day for Victims and Survivors of Terrorism in central London. Prime Minister there reflecting on how we can do better. So much better, he says. We need to be honest. He reflected on two major terrorist events, Islamist terror events that impacted Manchester. First, of course, the Manchester Arena bombing, Salman Abedi, who maimed, killed children in May 2017. He name-checked some of the survivors. Andy Burnham there claiming they felt misunderstood and they felt alone. The Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, then went on to say the state has a responsibility to you because the terrorists who attacked you were trying to attack us all. He then reflected on the Heaton Park synagogue attack. Of course, he was still the mayor of Manchester in October 2025 on Yom Kippur, when another Islamist psychopath attempted to massacre Jews in a synagogue. Common thread, I think, emerging there. The rising spectre of Islamist terrorism. The Andy Burnham, the Prime Minister, speaking at the closing statement there, the National Day for Victims and Survivors of Terrorism in central London. Well, welcome to the Martin Daubney Show, 4:05. If you're joining us on the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting until 6 p.m, here is what's coming on today's show. Top story this afternoon, Prince Harry announced his return to Britain this week, but so far it's been a right royal disaster. Today, Harry was hammered with his share of a whopping £9.5 million legal bill at the Royal High Court in London. And meanwhile, Wills and Kate are said to have no interest whatsoever to engage with the Sussexes. We'll have all of the very latest. And Brits were horrified this week when the Home Office printed a how not to rape guide for immigrants coming to our shores. But it seems that this pair of Afghan monsters, Khan Agar and Nurullah Amdazi, well, they didn't read it. The pair were convicted today of repeatedly raping a woman at knife point in a London park as her boyfriend watched on. Is it time to declare a national women's safety emergency? And 6 years after the death of George Floyd, the American serial criminal, the Premier League footballers are set to once again take the knee, this time to mark Black History Month. Today we'll be asking, here's the debate, is this actually now a show of racial solidarity, or is it an outdated, pointless and divisive virtue signal? And a majority of Londoners think London Mayor Sir Sadiq Khan should step down because the quality of life in the capital is plunging. 55% of Londoners think it's worse now than when Sir Sadiq was elected 10 years ago, with just 19% saying London has improved. Well, the lack of affordable housing and crime, the top gripes, should Mayor Khan make way. And a very, very special happy birthday to the world's oldest person. That's the British Ethel Caterham from Surrey. She turns 117 years young today. We're paying tribute to the legend and finding out how we could all live as long as beloved Ethel. And that's all coming up in your next hour. Welcome to the show. I hope you're having a very, very happy Friday, unlike Prince Harry and 6 other high-profile figures, because they'll have to pay the Daily Mail's publishers over £9.5 million after losing today their High Court case. The group, including Sir Elton John and Baroness Doreen Lawrence, they sued Associated Newspapers over allegations of unlawful information gathering. But I'm afraid today it turned into a right royal disaster for the returning prince. Let's now speak with GB News' royal correspondent Cameron Walker, who is there for us outside the Royal Courts of Justice. Cameron, it's been the week from hell for Prince Harry. £9.5 million, or his chunk of those legal fees today, and it could get even higher. We hear that Wills and Kate don't even want anything to do with him. And there was a poll out, of course, yesterday you and I discussed. Only 21% of Brits even want them to come home, the Sussexes. But let's start with today. It could be a very, very expensive lesson for Prince Harry.
Well, absolutely, Martin. £9.5 million is what Prince Harry and the other claimants collectively have to fork out for Associated Newspapers by the end of next week, in a week's time. All of them were suing Associated Newspapers for alleged unlawful information gathering. They catastrophically lost their claim at a High Court judge ruling last month. And that, of course, is only the initial payment, because the later final amount is yet to be determined. Now, during some cost hearings which happened a few weeks ago, the publisher of the Mail on Sunday, their lawyers were arguing that their legal fees totaled £34.5 million, and they want Prince Harry and the others to repay that costs in full. Now, the judge has not made that particular decision just yet. That will be up to a specialist cost judge to the actual amount. But what he has ruled is that the money being paid back by Prince Harry and the others will be done on a indemnity basis. Now, why he has made that decision is because the judge believes, because the claims were so broad, including very serious criminal allegations of wrongdoing by the Mail on Sunday journalists, and indeed the integrity of Associated Newspapers as a whole, they had to spend much more money defending their claims, and ultimately were successful. And that is why Mr. Justice Nickling said that this case was conducted well outside of the norm, and in some respects unreasonable to a high degree. He had lots of criticisms. Claims are exceptionally broad, as I said. The allegations were speculative, mainly based off inference. Serious accusations were pursued without sufficient evidence. And some claims kind of contradicted the documents that were produced at the time. The judge also said that the claimants had a pretty high-risk strategy, inferring that some of the arguments they were making, the legal arguments, were pretty chaotic. So any appeals to all of this have to be submitted by October. One of the claimants, who's Sir Simon Hughes, the former Liberal Democrat minister, he says he's disappointed with the judge's decision today and is considering whether or not to appeal both the ruling and the costs associated with that. One final thing to add, the 9.5 million figure, that is likely to be covered all by the insurance that the claimants took out ahead of this trial in the case that they lost. But that only runs up to £18 million, that insurance. So if the specialist cost judge rules that the claimants have to repay Associated Newspapers in full, i.e. £34.4 million, not all of that is covered by insurance. And it will be Prince Harry, Sir Elton John, Baroness Lawrence, and Sadie Frost, Liz Hurley, and Sir Simon Hughes, who are paying that back.
Cameron Walker, looking ahead now to the next chapter, let's face it, of this royal soap opera, that's what it is. And Associated Newspapers have had a victory. The Daily Mail, it's this story of the Sussexes returning to the UK. It's box office gold. It's their entire homepage. It's their front page day after day after day. Do you think there's any chance in hell of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle coming back to Britain and having a nice quiet life in the Cotswolds? Or now, this royal soap opera, could it be front page news day after day after day?
Well, then it's certainly not going to be quiet. There's absolutely no chance of that, especially if it's true, and I I understand that it is, that Meghan has been offered an acting role in the UK that's hardly not in the spotlight, is it, Martin? So from Meghan's perspective, yes, she's certainly going to be in the spotlight. As for Harry, well, he's got a week of not royal engagements, but they look like royal engagements on the surface. Lots of charity visits scheduled for mid-September. In a few weeks' time, they likely will be in front of cameras as well. Meanwhile, of course, the King and the Queen and the Prince and Princess of Wales and other working members of the royal family will be continuing with their duties in a dignified and stoic way. Nonetheless, there is, of course, a danger that whatever Harry and Meghan does inevitably end up on the front pages and does run the risk of overshadowing the good work of the kind of working royal family. So it is a tricky situation. I suspect on both sides they would like to get to a point where everything Harry and Meghan does not end up on the front pages, and they can kind of live at peace, perhaps separately. I think the King, as he's indicated, would like to see Harry and the grandchildren more regularly in a private capacity. I don't expect Harry and Meghan to end up on the balcony at Trooping the Colour, for example. That's just going to be reserved for working royals. But there will be situations, pretty uncomfortable for William, perhaps, when the King would want to invite Harry and Meghan to private family events, but some of those royal private family events are actually in front of cameras, such as the walk to church on Christmas Day at Sandringham. Is the King really not going to invite Harry and Meghan to walk on Christmas Day when other non-working members of the royal family do so, like Princess Eugenie and Beatrice? Well, let's wait and see. But I do know that William and Harry are not on speaking terms right now. That frost is going to be much harder to thaw.
And Cameron Walkie raised an excellent point. And meanwhile, we've had Queen Camilla this week talking very publicly, very emotionally about how she dealt with the diagnosis of the King's cancer and how she had to internalise that. It's the King we're talking about. We have a King who's in recovery mode. He's getting older. And does the royal family really need this psychodrama? This endless tabloid charade of a returning prince who's said repeatedly over the years he would never come back to Britain. He would never bring his children back here, almost disowning the United Kingdom, then taking on the biggest tabloid newspaper in the land and being decimated in court. And now he thinks he's going to get a normal life. He's a fantasist.
Well, you look back at when he left as a working member of the royal family, he was incredibly angry. He was incredibly bitter and did unfortunately have a tendency to lash out in the form of Oprah Winfrey interviews, writing his memoir Spare, and of course that Netflix docudrama which gave him millions of pounds in the form of a Netflix contract, and Meghan as well. Since then, I have seen a bit of a change of heart from Harry. There appears to be a strategy for him to not complain about his life as a member of the royal family or an ex-working royal. He appears to be trying to keep his head down. This last bit of litigation in the building behind me, suing associated newspapers, the last time he said anything about it was when he accused the judge of a whitewash when he lost the case. Again, the tendency of Harry getting very angry about something and lashing out. I think if he can not do that and just focus on the job in hand and focus on supporting veterans and young children and sick children in this country, perhaps we will start to see the public opinion polls improving for him. But as things stand, Harry and Meghan have a lot of work to do. They're still pretty unpopular in this country, apart from Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and Sarah Ferguson, and the Prince and Princess of Wales remain very much on top.
Cameron Walker, superb reporting today. You've been magnificent this week. Thank you very, very much indeed, my friend. Now, you're going to have a great weekend. That's Cameron Walker there, live for us outside the Royal Courts of Justice, where Prince Harry has had a royal hammering today to the tune of £9.5 million. Let's now speak to our next guest. Delighted to be joined by the royal writer, Ian Lloyd. Ian, welcome to the show. There's a word that leaps to mind with Prince Harry. It's entitlement. Am I being harsh?
It's not the word that comes to my mind, but never mind. Yes, entitlement. Yeah, I mean, it's typical of him when he arrives to say, tell the King on Sunday, or the news got through to the King on Sunday, we're coming now in the next couple of weeks. You think, oh my goodness, it's very typical, very high-handed of him just to approach this in that way, I think.
Ian, I'm also mindful of the fact that we must mark the fact that we know that Prince Harry lost against Associated Newspapers, and I'm a newspaper man myself in a previous life. I've worked for The Sun, I've worked for the News of the World. Many, many great friends of mine were hauled through the courts over Leveson, had their lives destroyed, and they were completely exonerated, most of them in the end. This is a very, very brutal and personal business. Harry picked on the biggest tabloid in the land, the Mail. He spectacularly had his backside served to him. The judge said today it was unreasonable to a high degree. It was doomed, this hacking case. It was a personal moral mission. Who can blame him, perhaps, when you think how his late mother, Princess Diana, was hounded by the paparazzi? But he was on a hiding to nothing from the outset in terms of the burden of proof of evidence. There was none. This was a forlorn attempt, and now it's a failed and very expensive one.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big damage is not just the money. It's the it's taking on the press, the British press, and you know, he took on the Mirror Group, the Mail Group, and the Sun, and it's not the way to do it, because when he arrives back here in late August, he's going to be crucified. I mean, in the papers, and people read that, you know. I mean, the example he should follow is Camilla. I mean, earlier this month, Camilla founded the Queen Camilla Future of Journalism Awards, which they give money to aspiring journalists, mentoring them and looking forward to their career. I mean, she's embraced journalism despite the fact that she had some horrid headlines in the 90s. And I think to take on the media is just in his role, in a very public role, is that's the stupidity of it all.
And Ian, we saw a poll out yesterday, only 21% of the British public even want the Sussexes to return. We hear that Will and Kate don't want anything to do with them. And now we're hearing that Meghan Markle will be returning to acting. I mean, perhaps she should. It seems to be the only thing she's half decent at.
Well, that's right. I mean, I think they've announced the cast for Strictly Come Dancing, but perhaps next year. Yeah, I mean, EastEnders, anything Corrie, will watch this space, I suppose.
Well, actually, I've got a bit of a fun graphic I made up. Don't know if we can pull that up now. I think the perfect TV role would be beckoning for both Meghan and Harry. Who we get there on the screen now? It's just about to come now. Ian, I wonder what your take is on the pair of them. I think there's no better TV show made for them than Traitors.
Traitors? Well, you never know. Watch this space, as I say, but and they need the money, don't they, from now on? So they could be embracing that. I mean, supposedly they get £1 million for a speech. So. Well, in America, but they'll be pushing themselves to do this kind of work, I'm sure. So it's going to be fun watching it for the next few years. And of course, what the papers will do is they always do this thing of reporting it honestly to begin with, and then it's the next day that they'll tear them to pieces about what they've said, who they ignored, what they were wearing. You know, they'll have great delights, the journalists, in tearing them to bits.
Ian, I want to ask you a serious question to end, and that is, you know, there's this huge battle that took place between Prince Harry and the British media, and Prince Harry has lost. The media has been victorious. This won't go away. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are about to return to the United Kingdom, and there's this situation where, on the one hand, nobody wants to repeat the hounding of the late Princess Diana, but the pair of them are a working, living, breathing royal soap opera. They say they want privacy, and they do that by poncing around on Instagram and having dancing videos. That they are self-publicists to the point some might say have been narcissistic. How do you think the media relationship with the Sussexes is going to play out? It could be really quite tense.
Well, it could, yeah. I mean, there could be intrusion. We see it with the former Prince Andrew, you know, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, where the people have access to his property and get in there and assault and so on. And the place is quite often ringed with press. I mean, it will be at Christmas, for instance, whether Andrew will go to church and all. Well, he won't go to church with the royal family, but will he be seen driving into Sandringham to have Christmas with his family? You know, I mean, the press will be hounding Andrew, but also they will be hounding Harry and Meghan, as you say. I mean, they're over here. I mean, there was I think, relatively little interest in America from the Americans, but it's certainly the British are fascinated with it all, and Prince Philip said we're turning into a soap opera, and they are, So
And isn't it funny how they're turning into a soap opera, and now Meghan Markle might actually be acting in a soap opera. And I just really wonder, what this will do to the health of the king. But look, that's the bed that the Sussexes have made, and I guess we're all going to have to lie in it. Now, thank you for joining us today, the royal writer Ian Lloyd. A pleasure to have your company on the show today. Now, one giveaway just ended. Another one's just begun. Brace yourselves. Time now for our brand new Great British Giveaway, and it's the biggest and the best of the year so far. Stand by. Your chance to win a brand new 4-berth motorhome. I want one worth £75,000 plus 35 grand in tax-free moolah. Over 100 grand's worth of goodies. And here's Hayley Sparks with all of the details.
It's brand new and it's the big one. Your chance to win £110,000 in prizes. Our biggest giveaway of the year so far. First, we want you to drive away in this. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could win this brand new 4-berth motorhome. The McClue Fusion comes fully loaded with all of the home comforts you'd expect. Built-in modern kitchen, bathroom, fridge freezer, and it's worth £75,000. But that's just the beginning, as we'll also give you a whopping £35,000 in tax-free cash to spend, save, or just to use to enjoy adventures in your new motorhome. This incredible prize package is exclusive to GB News. You won't see it anywhere else, so make sure you don't miss out.
For a chance to win a motorhome and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB23 PO Box 8690. Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 23rd of October. We may call the winner live after all entry routes have closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yeah, maybe it's a middle-aged thing, but I look at that and I drool. The motorhome. Let's move on. Still to come, Barking and Dagenham has been voted the least friendly place in the whole of England. What's going on there? Well, I'll speak to a former fireman who's seen his beloved hometown change forever. Look at that. The number of white people there has fallen by 68% since the 1960s. Could that have something to do with it? And also next, Brits were horrified this week when the Home Office printed a how not to rape guide for immigrants. But it seems that these two Afghan monsters, these rapists on the screen there, didn't read it. They were convicted of repeatedly raping a woman at knife point in a London park last year. Is it time to declare a national women's safety emergency? That's next here on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome back. Time is 4:28 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Just a warning now, the details of the next story may be distressing for some people. In another shocking case, 2 Afghan monsters have today been convicted of raping a woman at knife point in East London. The young victim had been stargazing with her boyfriend, a man on their first date, as he played guitar to her, when Khan Aga and Nurullah Amdazi attacked the woman in Barking Park last year. Amdazi raped the woman while Aga held a knife to her date's throat and threatened to kill him if he called the police. And then they swapped over and the second man raped that woman. Now, this shocking news comes, of course, after the terrible publication, the row over the Home Office leaflet. They handing out leaflets to illegal immigrants, reinforcing the need for consent in what's been called a How Not to Rape British Women and Children guide. Let's now speak with the director of the Law and Order Foundation, great friend of the channel, Norman Brennan. Norman, another sickening case, and clearly these 2 maggots didn't read this How Not to Rape guide. How many more of these cases can we tolerate, Norm?
You're absolutely right, Martin. We keep on hearing this can't go on, but it does. It goes on and it goes on. Here, a young lady was out with her boyfriend. I understand it might have been a first date, and they were approached by these 2 individuals, and one held a knife to her boyfriend's throat, threatening to kill him if he interfered, whilst the other one raped the woman. Then they swapped places and the other one took over. The question I'm asking is this, Martin, and I'm sure millions of others will, is which murder is one too many murders to be committed by an illegal migrant or asylum seeker? There are dozens of such murders. Which rape of a woman or a child is one rape too many of a woman or a child? And they're not just dozens, there are hundreds of them. Now, a government has a duty, and their prime duty is to protect our borders, our streets, and our citizens. And I think the time has come, Martin, because the only time the British people seem to have any power over politicians is pre-election. Thereafter, they feel impotent. So the question I ask is this: is it time for all of these families of the murder victims and the hundreds of women that have been raped and the children's families got together and caused a class action and took legal action against the government to insist that our borders, our streets, and our citizens of Britain are safe, or even under the Human Rights Act? You open this programme, or this item, with it's a national emergency. Martin, a national emergency, and I've attended as a police officer thousands of emergencies, means that you react quickly immediately and decisively. And I come back to the question, which murder, which rape by an illegal migrant or asylum seeker is one too many? We can't keep on having the same phrase, this just can't go on. Because the thing is, Martin, tomorrow it will just go on again and again until someone or the country stands up and says enough is enough.
You know, Norman, I'm struck by the gravity of your comments, and I find myself, you know, with a somber feeling that you're right. And the British public are very, very tolerant. You know, we are a welcoming, tolerant nation, and we have been for decades. So all of us grew up with black lads, you know, immigrating. It was beautiful. Wasn't problems. Now, of course, things have moved on. We've seen racial and tensions in the country. We've never seen anything like this, Norman. We've never seen such a huge change so quickly, and we've never seen so many rapists, criminals, wrong-uns come into the country. People feel afraid and they feel powerless.
Martin, I've been in policing for 31 years and I've been in law and order for the best part of 50 years. I'm tired, I'm emotional, and I feel pretty broken. The reason I feel broken is when I was a police officer, every call that come through, every 999 call, I couldn't wait to answer it with my colleagues. I couldn't wait to get there and protect whoever called us. I feel impotent now. For 50 years, I'm probably Britain's lead independent law and order campaigner. I see a country that's broken. I see families that are broken. I've dealt with homicide, gun and knife crime. I've met upwards of 2,000 families of homicide, probably more than anyone ever will in Britain. I took 4 years of an unpaid career break from policing to live with, work with and support homicide families. So getting back to what we're talking about now, including rape victims and stalking victims, Martin, all these people that we're talking about are names to you and me, but to me, I meet them. They're broken, their lives will never be the same. And for these families of murder victims from illegal asylum seekers and migrants that come into this country, not wanted, illegally, they leave in their wake broken lives. For all of these families and the people I described earlier on, when someone in their family has been murdered, when they've been raped, time stops and life changes forever. So I say, like you say, Martin, which murder is one murder too many? Which rape of a woman or a child by a legal migrant is one too many? I'm ending towards that day now where the soft music will come and mauve curtains. But as a police officer 30 years ago, I saw what was coming to Britain, and I was the first police officer in history risking my life or risking my career to stand up and warn about knife crime, gun crime, rape, domestic violence, knife crime, you mention it. And nearly every day on social media, I see another life destroyed as a result of an illegal migrant coming into this country unlawfully. The time has come where enough is enough, and I'm afraid when no one listens and no one acts, Martin, it means nothing will ever be done.
Norman Brennan, very, very powerful. Thank you for speaking out. Thank you for your service. You almost paid the price with your life. I know that, Norman. Thank you, Norman. Home Office spokesperson has said this. We expect everyone who comes to the UK to abide by our laws. If they do not, they will face consequences, including the refusal of their asylum claim and removal from the UK. Returns of failed asylum seekers have reached their highest level since 2010 under this government. And if you've been affected by anything discussed today, then the rape crisis, England and Wales support line is open 24 hours a day, every day of the year. You can ring 0808 500 2222 and it's completely free. Or you can go to their website or start a free online chat. Still to come, another emotional story. Barking and Dagenham has been voted the least friendly place in the whole of England. What's going on there? I speak to a former fireman who's seen his beloved hometown change forever. That's next. First, though, it's time for your headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Martin, thank you. The top stories this hour. Prince Harry and 6 other high-profile figures will have to pay the Daily Mail's publisher an initial payment of £9.5 million after losing their High Court case. The Duke of Sussex, Sir Elton John and others sued Associated Newspapers Limited over allegations of unlawful information gathering. Meanwhile, security for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex upon their return to the UK could cost millions of pounds as uncertainty remains over how protection for the couple is to be funded. And footage has emerged showing French police coming under attack as they attempted to intercept a migrant boat. Officers can be seen using Parva spray to disperse migrants before deflating the dinghy by slashing it with a knife. Those are the latest headlines. More from me at 5 o'clock.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Showers for many of us during the rest of the day, but not for all. Some places will be dry with sunny spells. Wherever you are, it's going to feel on the cool side, certainly compared with summer so far, and indeed compared with what we'd expect at this time of year. A northerly breeze bringing those showers, especially to western, southwestern, as well as eastern shores, and those showers will continue into the evening, mostly southern parts of the UK, seeing the showers continuing inland, away from the coast. The showers eventually break away and clear skies prevail. 12 or 13 Celsius in the south, 8 to 11 further north, and in some shelter spots, low single figures. So for sheltered parts of Scotland and northern England, for example, a chilly start to Saturday. A touch warmer further south, but certainly fresher compared with so many mornings this summer. Plenty of sunshine through southern parts of England as well as into Wales. Further showers running into North Wales, northwest England, 1 or 2 trickling down the North Sea. Northern Ireland seeing a scattering of showers, likewise for the northwest of Scotland. In between, brighter spells. The showers nowhere near as frequent or as heavy compared with the second half of this week. We're looking at a general settling down of the weather heading into the weekend. High pressure building back, but this high is going to be a cooler high and temporary. Return to low pressure expected from next Tuesday. Temperatures up into the high teens, perhaps low 20s in places. So again, below average for the time of year. A notable cool feel compared with so many days this summer. Any showers that we do see on Saturday tend to fade away on Saturday night. Another chilly start in places on Sunday. Sunday's a mostly dry day, sunny in the south, cloudier further north, and then it's through next week we see the rain return.
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M27 westbound is closed between junctions 4 and 3 in Southampton West. The M25 anti-clockwise is closed between junctions 26 and 25 in Enfield. In Scotland, the M8 westbound has congestion and lane restrictions at junction 8. Baillieston West slip off. Across Wales, the M4 westbound from J38 Margam to J39 Grows is affected by a collision. And on the trains, Greater Anglia services are facing major disruption between Shenfield and Southend Victoria, while Avanti West Coast services are disrupted between Milton Keynes Central and Watford Junction. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's 20 to 5. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, a sobering study published by the Independent Commission on Community and Cohesion has named the London borough of Barking and Dagenham as England's officially least friendly place. Now, according to the research, only 1 in 5 respondents in the borough felt that many of their neighbours could be trusted. But what are the reasons for this? Well, let's now speak with the Labour activist and the broadcaster Paul Embry, of course, who is from Barking. Paul, it's always a pleasure to have your company, and I'm a huge fan of your work. I read your article this morning on gbnews.com, and I found it really quite sobering and emotional. You're from the area. You've charted and you've made a log of what's been happening in working class Britain. Your book's excellent, Despised Why the Modern Left Loathes the Working Class. You saw this coming. You saw your area changing. Tell us about this quite sobering study that's come out.
Yeah, good evening, Martin. The study in many respects is quite sad for me. I lived in Barking and Dagenham for 35 years. I grew up there. But I can't say in the end I was particularly surprised by the fact that it was voted the least friendly part of England, because it was ultimately, Barking and Dagenham, an experiment in what happens when governments visit very profound social and economic change very quickly on particular communities. And Barking and Dagenham went from being a place that was very kind of culturally homogenous. It was largely a monoculture, but because of that, there were very deep wells of social solidarity. It was working class solidarity because it was a traditional working class community. And people really had common interests and common backgrounds and common identities. And that's what really bound people together. And then when, particularly in the first decade of this century, that whirlwind happened, that social and economic whirlwind happened. You know, there was massive deindustrialization, there was very profound demographic change. That broke apart and the area became very fragmented and very atomized. And in the end, as I said, I don't really feel surprised that it came at the bottom of the pile in this study. Go back 20, 30 years when I lived there, it would have been near the top of the pile, I can assure you.
Paul Embry, the reason this article chimes so much with me, I'm from a completely different part of Britain. I'm from Nottinghamshire. I'm from a coal mining community. But everything you say, I see in those areas. I was in Nottingham at the weekend and I see this huge social change in a very quick period. Deindustrialisation, either the Ford plants, the car industry where you're from, or the coal mines where I'm from. The poverty comes in, the houses get cheaper, and we see a huge ingress of people from outside the area. I've got a graph on the chart, a couple of charts I want to show. Look at the change in the demographic in Barking and Dagenham since the 1960s. This is what you're talking about there, Paul Embry. In the 1960s, 98.7% white. In 2021, 31% white, 68% change. And Paul Embry, what happened is that the formerly working class, they moved away. This is what they call white flight. And is there any wonder, Paul, when you see such fragmentation, that now you have communities where people feel lonely, they feel isolated, because the change was so profound and the change was so quick?
Yeah, indeed. And you mentioned the term, Martin, white flight. I actually don't use that term. I call it a flight to familiarity. It wasn't so much that people were trying to get to somewhere where other people had the same skin colour. It was they were trying to get to somewhere where they felt that people had common identities and common interests and common backgrounds. And we are ultimately, social and parochial beings with an attachment to our culture. That doesn't mean we have to be hostile to other cultures or exclusionary, but it does mean that if you're going to visit change on a place, you have to do it in a way that people feel comfortable with and people feel they can adapt to and absorb. And the problem in places like Barking and Dagenham is the change was so quick and so profound that in the end people felt they were kind of living not in the place that they called home and felt was home, but living in an airport terminal almost. And that kind of sense of their sense of place and belonging being violated, it bewildered them, it disorientated them, and that bewilderment and disorientation was disgracefully kind of dismissed as bigotry and racism. The political elites didn't understand that this was not racism. This was people simply with an attachment to their community and to their culture, and they didn't want to see it fractured in the way that it was.
Paul, beautifully put. It really, really is. I think you're just one of the most eloquent chroniclers of the working class in Britain. I really do. And communities like Barking, communities like where I'm from in Nottinghamshire, have been let down by the political class, particularly from the left. You and I can both agree on that. People feel hurt. People feel that what they loved and they cherished as simply going away, and if they complain about it, they're called bigoted and racist, and we need to do something about it. Paul, we need to pick this conversation up again another time. We've run out of time. I love what you do, Paul. Thank you for coming on today. I really mean that. And viewers and listeners, check out his book, Despised. It really is an excellent read. Thank you, Paul Embry. It's always an absolute delight. Thanks. Coming up next, a majority of Londoners think London Mayor Sir Sadiq Khan should step down because the quality of life in the capital is plunging, and so is confidence in Mayor Khan. Meanwhile, I've inserted some holiday sun, and here is a forecast of some of your top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Thunderstorms are affecting parts of southern Alpine regions. It's turning quite wet and windy across parts of Spain and Portugal throughout this weekend. That's thanks to this area of low pressure that will sweep up across parts of Portugal, Spain and then into France through the start of next week. Elsewhere, though, that thundery downpour across Alpine regions does tend to fade away into this weekend. And across the Mediterranean, it's looking nice and warm and sunny. And that theme does continue as we head into next week as well. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Becky, Chad and the beekeepers, Richard, Mohammed and James. Well, thank you all for coming. So tell us what happened.
So I got a phone call about 7:30 on Sunday evening from one of the rangers to tell us that there was a forest fire that was spreading quite rapidly and the bees were in danger, and if we could get down as soon as we could to get them out.
Oh, I suppose this is a real challenge, because bees, whilst they do flit around all over the place, they're pretty stuck to their colonies.
Yes, absolutely. The boys were the ones that were there.
When we approached it, the fire was quite close to the colonies, so we had to make a decision very quickly on whether or not to remove them from the apiary or keep them there and try and just water down the area. And after we saw flames on the horizon, we decided that, no, we've just got to make the decision to move the bees to a safer place, which we did.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
I do think it's worrying that young people, I mean, are they I think they are more risk averse. Yes. I think they are scared of getting into personal space. I think you're right, there are issues about consent and everything else. But how sad that people say that it's been a year since they've been kissed. What is life for if you're not having a little kiss every now and again?
Yeah, the death of the kiss.
Apparently, much younger people now haven't had a good snog in over 12 months on average, the people that have been interviewed. But I would hazard a guess that that's because people are frightened. Men don't know when they can approach women anymore. Men can think 1 or 2 steps ahead on the same board, whereas a woman will think about 18 steps. So
I think you're overthinking it.
If a man takes you to Paris for the weekend, a woman will come back disappointed that they haven't proposed to them, whereas a man thinks they've done a really great thing.
Why do men always think you're going to be proposed to in Paris? That you expect that? We don't expect
men
that.
are not
Just
emotionally
take us to
intelligent.
Paris.
The People's Channel.
We're only here for like 12 hours. We're flying home at 11 o'clock tonight.
Oh, and mummy and daughter.
Yeah, and it only costs £70, so we thought, well, why not? Because it's cheaper than a supermarket shop.
Supermarket shop or spending the day in Benidorm with cheap booze.
It's a no-brainer, isn't it? It's a no-brainer.
And is there no chance you might just decide we're going to stay?
No, because my husband would kill me.
We did consider it because I said to my mum earlier on, we might just stay and miss the flight, but she's not up for it.
Has your husband actually visited Benidorm the Zone?
No, he hasn't. I've been here 27 times. That's my daughter's first time. She's a Benidorm virgin. But
well,
my husband's never been.
Not that he's told you anyway, let's put it like that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. Your time is 10 to 5. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, a new poll published today has revealed that most Londoners want Sir Sadiq Khan, the mayor, to stand down at the next mayoral election. 56% say Labour should choose a different candidate in 2028, while 55% believe the capital has become a worse place to live since the mayor took office 10 years ago, back in 2016. Let's now join my next guest, the former Conservative Minister for London, Paul Scully. Paul, I've lived in London for 32 years, and I can safely say I think the place has gone down the toilet. I really do. What say you?
I don't think it's gone down at all. I wouldn't go that strong, and I'll tell you for why in a second, but it's definitely gone downhill. No doubt about that. I mean, you can put a bit of it down to COVID. You can put a chunk of it down to the general conditions of the economy, the way the government's been doing things. But at the end of the day, you've got a strategic leader in the form of the Mayor of London, who has to take a grip and go toe-to-toe against the government when it's not in the interest of Londoners, their policies. And we're just not getting that sort of champion in the shape of Sadiq Khan, because he's in it for himself. If you look at Andy Burnham when he was in Manchester, he was able to at least portray the impression that he was there for Manchester, as reflected in his Manchesterism that he's talking about now. With Sadiq Khan, you've never had that same feeling with him, and that's why he's allowed crime to increase. That's why he's just not been he's just been interested in making excuses for housing rather than actually getting houses built.
Paul, I've lived in London under three mayors. I remember Ken Livingstone, he's called him Red Ken. I remember Boris Johnson and the Boris bikes that weren't even Boris bikes, they were Red Ken's bikes. And I've lived under Sadiq Khan for 10 years. And something that comes out in this survey is this: the longer you live in London, the worse you think it is. And I think that's true, because you remember, you could afford to buy a house in the late 90s. You could buy a house for 95 grand. It's the thick end of £500,000 even for a flat now. For young people, Paul, in particular, London's become unaffordable, expensive. It smells of dope everywhere, and I personally feel it's getting less safe.
All of those things are true, Martin, and I think one of the reasons that people like you and I that have lived in London for so long think that is because we've got more to compare it with. We've got previous mayors. We've got Boris Johnson, who I obviously worked with when he was Prime Minister. I worked with to get him elected in the first place. And Ken Livingstone, although he was a different political persuasion, had that ability to look like and was interested in London. The reason I say it's not down the toilet in that way is because I don't want to talk London down in its entirety, because if you want to invest in London, if you want to come fresh into London, if we want to reinvigorate London, we need that interest from outside. And if we're just saying, hey, it's down the Kazi, then everyone's going to go elsewhere. And we've got to be I just want to be careful about focusing on what the mayor does badly, but also celebrating London for being a great city.
Yeah, Paul, so look, London's given me my career. Here I am, a coal miner, son from Nottingham, talking on a news channel in Westminster. So, yeah, you're right. But we need to get better. Paul Scully, pleasure to have on the show, as always. Now, GB News has approached the Mayor of London's office for comment, and we'll bring you that once it wings into us here at GB News. Plenty more to come on the show today, including all the latest reaction to Prince Harry's royal legal hammering today after he's been smashed with his share of a £9.5 million bill at the Royal Courts of Justice. That's next here on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Showers for many of us during the rest of the day, but not for all. Some places will be dry with sunny spells. Wherever you are, it's going to feel on the cool side, certainly compared with summer so far, and indeed compared with what we'd expect at this time of year. A northerly breeze bringing those showers, especially to western, southwestern, as well as eastern shores, and those showers will continue into the evening, mostly southern parts of the UK, seeing the showers continuing inland, away from the coast. The showers eventually break away and clear skies prevail. 12 or 13 Celsius in the south, 8 to 11 further north, and in some shelter spots, low single figures. So for sheltered parts of Scotland and northern England, for example, a chilly start to Saturday. A touch warmer further south, but certainly fresher compared with so many mornings this summer. Plenty of sunshine through southern parts of England as well as into Wales. Further showers running into North Wales, northwest England, 1 or 2 trickling down the North Sea. Northern Ireland seeing a scattering of showers, likewise for the northwest of Scotland. In between, brighter spells. The showers nowhere near as frequent or as heavy compared with the second half of this week. We're looking at a general settling down of the weather heading into the weekend. High pressure building back, but this high is going to be a cooler high and temporary. Return to low pressure expected from next Tuesday. Temperatures up into the high teens, perhaps low 20s in places. So again, below average for the time of year. A notable cool feel compared with so many days this summer. Any showers that we do see on Saturday tend to fade away on Saturday night. Another chilly start in places on Sunday. Sunday's a mostly dry day, sunny in the south, cloudier further north, and then it's through next week we see the rain return.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M27 westbound is closed between junctions 9 and 8 in Bursleden. The M1 southbound is closed between junctions 14 and 11A in Luton. The M6 southbound is affected by a collision between junctions 19 and 18 in Stoke-on-Trent. In Scotland, the A78 Dunlop Street to A8 Ratho Street is closed in both directions. Across Wales, the M4 westbound from J38 Margam to J39 Grows is affected by a collision. And on the trains, Greater Anglia and Avanti West Coast are facing major disruption, with delays between Shenfield and Southend Victoria and between Milton Keynes and Watford Junction. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. We can allow.
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 5 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you until 6. We've got a cracking show, and here's what's on today's menu. Top story this afternoon. Prince Harry announced his return to Britain this week, but so far it's been a right royal disaster. Today, Prince Harry was hammered with his share of a whopping £9.5 million legal bill at the Royal Court of Justice. Meanwhile, Wills and Kate are said to have no interest at all to engage with the Sussexes, as a poll shows just 21% of Brits even want them to come back home. We'll have all the very latest on the royal soap opera. And Brits were horrified this week when the Home Office printed a how not to rape guide for immigrants. But it seems these two monsters, these Afghans, Khan Aga and Nourullah Amdazi, didn't read it. The pair were convicted of repeatedly raping a woman at knife point in a London park last August as the lady's boyfriend watched on. Is it time to declare a women's safety emergency in Britain? 6 years after the death of George Floyd, the American serial criminal, the Premier League football players are once again set to take the knee, this time to mark Black History Month. Today we'll be asking this question: is this still truly a show of racial solidarity, or is it an outdated, pointless and even divisive virtue signal? And a majority of Londoners think London Mayor Sadiq Khan should step down because quality of life in the capital is plunging. 55% of Londoners think it's worse now than when Sir Sadiq was elected 10 years ago, with just 19% saying it's improved. With a lack of affordable housing and crime the top gripes, should Mayor Khan make way? And finally today, a very special happy birthday to the world's oldest person, the Brit Ethel Caterham from Surrey. She turns 117 years young today. We're paying tribute to the living legend and find out if we could all live as long as Ethel. That's all coming up in your next hour. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. Would you like to live to be 117 years old? What would you do with all of your time? Because a lot of people who I talk to about politics all over the country, they say to me they think the country is getting worse. Worse in terms of their local community, about how social cohesion is going down. Before the break, we talked about Barking and Dagenham, once 98% white, with a Ford motor plant now decimated by cultural integration or lack of. It ranks lowest in Britain. London, we're here now, people are saying is going down the toilet. A new poll saying 55% want the mayor to stand aside. Do you want to live to be 117? Or are Britain's best days behind it? I hope not. I hope we can fight back for this country. That's why we're here at GB News. Tell us what you'd like us to do to make that better. Get in touch. gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so, or scan the QR code on your screens now. But now it's time for your headlines, and here's Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you. The top stories. Prime Minister Andy Burnham told a ceremony held for the inaugural National Day for Victims and Survivors of Terrorism that this day does matter and that it is our way of saying that we see you, we hear you, we stand with you, and the whole country does too. He pledged to consult the victims and survivors of terrorism about creating a permanent national memorial.
It is our way of saying that we see you, we hear you, we stand with you, and the whole country does too. I want to thank everyone who campaigned for this day to make it happen. And the victims and survivors of more than 20 atrocities. We think of those victims today, the loved ones that you lost, but we thank those who have stood strong in all those years since.
Prince Harry and a group of 6 other high-profile figures have been ordered to make an initial payment of £9.5 million to the Daily Mail's publisher after they lost their High Court privacy case. The claimants, including Sir Elton John and Liz Hurley, sued Associated Newspapers Limited over allegations of unlawful information gathering, which A&L strenuously denied. On the 7th of July, Judge Mr Justice Nicklin dismissed the claims and said the public figures had failed to prove the allegations. Associated Newspapers Limited has described the ruling as a devastating critique of an attempt to destroy a newspaper and the reputations of its journalists, editors and executives. Meanwhile, security for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex upon their return to the UK could cost millions of pounds, a former police chief has said, as uncertainty remains over how protection for the couple is to be funded. Prince Harry and Meghan's plan to move back to Britain was revealed on Wednesday night. The couple's children have already been enrolled in new schools, but little else is known about the royal homecoming beyond the fact they will live in a non-royal residence outside London. Meanwhile, Meghan could return to acting once back in the UK, according to a report. The development has reignited questions about the Sussex's security, with Harry having lost a legal battle with the government last year after his protection was downgraded due to no longer being a working royal. In other news, footage has emerged showing French police coming under attack as they attempted to intercept a migrant boat. Officers can be seen using pava spray to disperse migrants before deflating the dinghy by slashing it with a knife. It comes as a new elite French police unit has stopped 12 so-called taxi boats travelling up the coast to pick up migrants waiting to cross the Channel into Britain. The operation is part of the new £662 million UK-France deal aimed at tackling Channel crossings. French police units have prevented 185 small boat crossing attempts in the first 3 months of the deal. Kemi Badenoch spoke today.
I don't believe that we're getting value for money from France with this deal to stop migrant crossings. The crossings are getting higher and higher. The government is saying that they've reduced them, but the last 3 months have been worse than the 3 months beforehand. The real problem is that Labour came into office and stopped the Rwanda plan. That was the third country deterrent that meant that people coming to our country illegally would be processed elsewhere. Labour stopped that plan. They didn't have any other plan in place. They're asking France to help. France has an even bigger problem than we do. So what I say is that Labour should look at our borders plan. We have a proper plan that will put this to an end. That borders plan does mean we need to leave the ECHR, use our own rights, our own laws in this country to maintain rights and stop the boats permanently.
And several people have been injured after a sword attack at a high school in Sweden. Police said they arrested one man after the incident at Brunel School in Fagersta in central Sweden. Officers were called to the scene just after 2 p.m. local time today, with some reports in Swedish media saying the suspect was shot in the leg by police. Fagersta Council did not specify the number of wounded, but said police were searching the building and that 8 other schools had been placed under lockdown measures. Police have said there is currently no danger to the public. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Thank you, Tatiana. Now, just a warning that the details of the next story could be distressing for some viewers and listeners, but we have to have these difficult conversations here on GB News because in another completely shocking case, 2 Afghan monsters have been convicted of raping a woman at knife point in East London last August. The young victim had been stargazing with a man on their first date as he played his guitar to her. But then in came these 2 brutes. Khan Aga and Nurullah Amdazi attacked the woman in Barking Park last August. Amdazi raped the woman while Aga held a knife to her date's throat and threatened to kill him if he called the police. They then swapped roles and both the second man raped this woman. Now, the news of this, of course, comes amid the row over a Home Office move to hand out leaflets to illegal migrants, reinforcing the need for consent. Has been dubbed by some as a how not to rape British women and children guide, and it's completely disgusted the nation. What do we do about all of this, and how many more of these cases can we have before Britain is at breaking point? I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by the editor of Spiked, Tom Slater. Tom, a pleasure to have your company. This latest case is just so barbaric, and yet we're almost getting used to them now, aren't we? How many more of these cases can we have where somebody who came on a dinghy becomes a rapist? The Home Office's answer is to produce a pamphlet. Well, only 6% of Afghans are even capable of reading English, and there's a feeling that we're having something foisted upon us that nobody ever voted for, nobody wants, and yet when we complain about it, we're called far right. When will this stop?
I mean, it's one story after another, Martin, at the moment, isn't it? I mean, just off the top of my head, horrific stories in Nuneaton, Leamington Spa, that case the other week of the Afghan interpreter who couldn't actually speak English, who had raped a young woman in the back of his taxi. I mean, there's almost 2 or 3 stories of these a week now. We all know why. I mean, by definition, every crime, let alone a horrific sex crime that's committed by an illegal migrant / asylum seeker, depending on your perspective, is a preventable crime. They did not need to be here. We have allowed our border to become entirely porous, open, and so anyone, regardless of where they've come from, deeply misogynistic, barbaric cultures in many cases, provided they can scrape enough money together to pay a people smuggler to get across the English Channel, that is just the cost of entry. And that story in Barking, again, without wanting to dwell on the details too much, this just shows what happens when you have a government which has almost given up its responsibility to protect the public. The horror story of that, the fact that such an innocent moment, a first day under the stars, turns into the stuff of absolute nightmares. And again, it was entirely preventable. They knew, as those leaflets attest to. And at this point, I think it's clear that the government realise that the public aren't necessarily going to put up with it anymore, but I don't think anyone's under any illusions that this Labour Party are going to be the one to get on top of it.
It's funny you say that, Tom, because Andy Burnham gave the concluding speech today at the National Day for Victims and Survivors of Terrorism, and he reflected upon the Manchester Arena massacre. Of course, Salman Abedi killed children and maimed others on his patch when he was the mayor of Manchester, and then the Heaton Park synagogue attack. Of course, he was still the mayor of Manchester then on Yom Kippur in October the 2nd last year. And he said, we can do better, so much better. We need, he said, to be honest. But why aren't the political class being honest about what's happening with our borders? The honest situation is we have an uncontrollable influx coming in, and any time people complain about it, they're not listened to. They're castigated. They're called far right. They're told to shut up. They're told to suck it up. They're being told to stop feeling like the working class are part of the problem.
No, exactly. If you listen to your average Labour politician, read a liberal left newspaper, you would think that the big problem that is ailing us these days are white working class people who have had enough of the open border. You would think that the big extremism threat that we face are good, hard-working people who just happen to have completely reasonable concerns about terrorism or about illegal migration or what have you. The British people have been turned into the enemy in this situation. Even as we're attacked by Islamists, that they make up 97% of the terror threat that we face, Islamic extremists. Meanwhile, also the extent to which the Islamic extremism problem is being fuelled by the broken borders as well. You mentioned Heaton Park and, of course, the Manchester Arena. Heaton Park, Jihad al-Shami, the attacker in that case, had come to this country from Syria. If you think about the Manchester Arena bombing, Salman Abedi's family were allowed to settle in Manchester in the 1990s, despite the fact they were basically a family of Libyan jihadists. Yeah. Again, preventable. Again, anyone could have pointed this out. And I think that it's nice that Andy Burnham is saying that we need to have difficult conversations now. First of all, why not just have it rather than talk about it? And also, if you think about some of the people around him, I remember after the Manchester Arena bombing, Lucy Powell, who, of course, very senior in this government, was also, I believe, the Manchester Arena is in her patch of central Manchester. She went on the airwaves after Salman Abedi did what he did and chided the presenter for using the word Islamist. They've got their heads in the sand. They're trying to pretend that they're listening now, but I don't think many people will be convinced by it.
We need to listen. You know, the one thing that struck me when we reported throughout the Tottenham riots, there was a community engagement period afterwards. People were rightly jailed, but there was a conversation with the community. Why did the community reach breaking point? How can we listen more? How can we police better? How can we interact with the community? There's been none of that with the white working classes. They've been smeared by Keir Starmer's far right. They've been jailed for throwing mountain bikes, for things that wouldn't normally get people jailed. Of course, there were some horrific acts of arson too. Why won't the political class do as the Prime Minister says and do better and listen?
I genuinely wonder, because we are starting to see genuine unrest. I mean, we saw it after Southport, of course, those horrific riots which gripped the country. And, of course, people who engage in that kind of behaviour, people who are going around throwing things at mosques and burning down businesses, of course, they should meet the full force of the law. But as you say, if you think back to 2011 and the London riots, there was still a desire to work out, OK, this behaviour should be punished, but how did we get here? The answers to that are kind of obvious. You look at where the rioting kicked off after Southport. This was actually mentioned in an internal cabinet briefing to the government sometime last year. Those areas are also overrepresented for asylum seeker accommodation and particularly Afghan refugee accommodation. Maybe that's something we should talk about. Maybe we should talk about the fact that even though working class people in this country consistently at every election have voted for more controlled migration and less migration have ended up with the opposite. And we could also talk about the fact that the brunt of the small boats crisis has been borne by some of the poorest communities in the country, purely because the hotel rooms and the HMOs are cheaper. Something that Andy Burnham has accepted, but of course his answer is just to spread the problem more evenly around the country. So this is, again, so obvious what we've got here. And no one should say this with any delight, but if this issue isn't got on top of, if people feel like they vote and nothing changes, they've raised their voice and they get locked up for it, what options do you leave them with? That's not to justify the kind of anger that we've seen in the protests that we've seen, certainly not rioting, but it does show you the tinderbox atmosphere that we're in at the moment, and it all could have been avoided, in my view.
I think you're entirely right. Thank you for coming in today. I appreciate your time. Tom Slater there, the editor of Spite. Excellent, thank you. Now, Home Office spokesperson has told GB News this. We expect everyone who comes to the UK to abide by our laws. If they do not, they will face consequences, including the refusal of their asylum claim and removal from the UK. Returns of failed asylum seekers have reached their highest level since 2010 under this government. And just to add, if you have been affected by anything discussed today, then the Rape Crisis England and Wales support line is open 24 hours a day, every day of the year. You can ring for free on 0808 500 2222, or you can visit their website to start a free online chat. Moving on. Prince Harry, beg your pardon, and 6 other high-profile figures will have to pay the Daily Mail's publisher over £9.5 million after losing their High Court case today. The group, including Sir Elton John and Baroness Doreen Lawrence, sued associated newspapers over allegations of unlawful information gathering, but they lost spectacularly to the tune of £9.5 million and rising. Let's now speak with the royal commentator, Dickie Arbiter. Dickie, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. It's been a disaster for Prince Harry in 1 week. £9.5 million bill. Wills and Kate don't want anything to do with the returning Sussexes, and only 21% of the British public even want them back. So far, it's been a royal nightmare.
Well, it has been a nightmare, and I think coming up the end of the week, today, Friday, the sum of money that the judge has initially forced them to pay, which is something 9.54 million, divided between the 7, it's 1.3 million each. Whether some of them can afford it, I don't know. I don't know what their bank balance is, but it is a lot of money, and it is all based on what the judge said was unsupportable claims. And that is a very serious charge. They have until next Friday, the 28th, to pay that 9.5 million, but they also have the ability to seek an appeal, which they have to lodge by the 2nd of October. So I would have guessed they're probably going to appeal against that sum, but at the end of the day, they're going to have to stump up a lot of money to associated newspapers.
The thing about this is that it's just going on and on and on. And I want to ask you, Dickie, about what happens next, because if you take the country's biggest tabloid newspaper to court and you lose, and you come back to the country and expect Queensberry rules, because the conversation was about the hounding of Princess Diana, the late Princess Diana, of course, Harry's mother. But this is now going to be a running soap opera, isn't it?
It's going to be a bit of a running soap opera. I mean, they left in the first place 6 years ago because of alleged press harassment. The media haven't changed. It's still the same media today as it was 6 years ago. So their modus operandi is not going to change. The difference between now and during the days of the late Diana, Princess of Wales, is that there was harassment and rules have been brought in that control that harassment. So it's not exactly harassment, physical, but they can say, well, they're being harassed by stories appearing in the newspaper. But they're going to have to live with that. It's no good running away. They took what they called their freedom flight to escape the media. And here they are coming back again with the intention of staying. Well, I wonder if they'll stay. I certainly think Harry's going to be here for the whole of the organising of the Invictus Games, which is next year. He was here a couple of months ago for the launch of the 1 year to the Games, and he'll certainly stay for that because he wants to be part of it. It's his baby. He initiated it. He wants to be part of it. What happens after that remains to be seen. I see they still maintain their property in Montecito. If you are coming back here permanently, you'd sell a bit of real estate in order to realise a lot of money, but they still maintain it.
And the 6-year rule on capital gains tax could come in handy there, because he's come back just after that expires, so he could flog whatever he wants in America and not pay tax here. I digress. We call it a royal soap opera, and Meghan, of course, has been rumoured to wanting to return to real-life soap operas herself. Dickie, I've got an idea. Let's get it on the screen now. What a perfect role for them. The traitors, Harry and Meghan.
That's a good one. Yeah, why not? Whether she's actually going to get a part, whether she's going to appear on a television soap or television series or on stage, her forte is television. So whether there is something there for her, whether she does, it does beg the whole question of half in and half out. They are out. They are not working royals, and they will remain non-working royals.
You know, Dickie Arbiter, when you look at the look on Meghan and Harry's face and that AI-generated image of the traitors, we've got one heck of a ride ahead, a rollercoaster ride of the royals, the paparazzi, round and round we go. Nothing else, Dickie. You'll be a very, very busy Dickie indeed. Royal commentator Dickie Arbiter, thank you very much for joining us on the show. Pleasure to have your company and have a fantastic weekend. Thank you. Cheers. Well, time now for our brand new Great British giveaway, and it's the biggest and the best of the year so far. Your chance to win a brand new 4-berth motorhome worth 75 grand plus 35 grand in tax-free moolah. Here's Hayley Sparks with how you could grab 110 grand.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway of the year so far. It's your chance to win a whopping £110,000 prize package that comes in 2 terrific parts. You'll be able to explore Great Britain and beyond in this, your very own motorhome. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, this brand new McClure Fusion could be yours. It comfortably sleeps 4 with spacious lounge area for entertaining and fully fitted kitchen and bathroom. Plus, you can drive it on your standard driving licence. We'll also boost your bank account too with a further £35,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Make sure you don't miss out on this £110,000 prize package.
For a chance to win a motorhome and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB23 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 23rd of October. We may call the winner live after all entry routes have closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, coming next, the majority of Londoners think that the London Mayor, Sir Sadiq Khan, should step down because quality of life in the capital is plunging. And next, 6 years after the death of the American serial criminal George Floyd, the Premier League football players are once again set to take the knee. We'll be asking, is this a show of racial solidarity or an outdated, pointless and divisive virtue signal? That's next here on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people, and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howard. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Time is 5:27. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, football fans rejoice because the Premier League is back. The new season will kick off at 8 p.m. this evening when defending champions Arsenal take on the newly promoted Coventry City at the Emirates Stadium. Now, that could be a baptism of fire. But this comes as it's been revealed today that players will be performing the anti-racism gesture of taking the knee on 2 occasions during October's Black History Month. Here's today's question. Is this a show of racial solidarity, or is it actually an outdated, pointless and perhaps divisive virtue signal? I'm delighted now to speak with the director of Voice for Change, Kunle Ololode. Kunle, it's a pleasure as always to have your company. It's been way too long. Now, Kunle, I think we can all agree that in 2020, the world was on a knife edge and something was being addressed about racial injustice. Footballers took the knee for 2 or 3 years, but really, in 2026, do we need it to come back?
To be honest, my feeling about it is it's something of an empty gesture, even in its origins, because I think as many commentators have said, what is it actually achieved in terms of shifting the race equality dial in society? I think very little. And if you're looking at football specifically, I think it's very much the product of what I would describe as a top-down approach from the football authorities. I haven't seen any kind of major push from actual players themselves saying, this is really important. We need to make this gesture at the start of the season and during certain times of year. It seems to me that the Football Association itself has got itself, particularly the Premiership, it's got itself into a situation where it just wants to continue this without any kind of strategy or real kind of outcome focus in terms of what it's actually meant to achieve. So, I'm kind of indifferent to it. At the same time, I wouldn't want to remove the right to protest from any footballer. But I do think that there's a certain amount of hypocrisy here in terms of how sporting governing bodies sometimes push sportsmen and women into situations that they're not very comfortable with.
We can see on our screens there, Kunle, a bunch of players who didn't bother carrying on with taking the knee. That was Wilfried Zaha there, Crystal Palace. He was the first Premier League player to stand rather than kneel. He called it degrading, saying it was just pantomime. Ivan Toney of Brentford, now he's moved on, of course. He said it was that players are being used as puppets. And my club, Nottingham Forest, Lyle Taylor, objected specifically to Black Lives Matter because he described them correctly as a Marxist and politically motivated organisation. And isn't that the point? Like, you know, football is football. I'm going to see Forest tomorrow. Keep the politics off the pitch. We've done this now, Kunle. Let's move on.
I think, as I said, there's an element of hypocrisy. I mean, Martin, you'll be old enough to remember the great footballer Robbie Fowler, who back in 1997, during the Liverpool Dockers strike, when they were locked out, after his second goal in the European game, revealed a T-shirt supporting the Liverpool Dockers. Well, the football authorities didn't welcome him with open arms. In fact, he ended up getting fined and disciplined for the action he took, even though, and I found out more recently, there are many footballers from both the Liverpool football team and from the Everton side of Liverpool who supported those workers, and even Alex Ferguson sent messages of solidarity at the time. So I think the football authorities are quite selective in terms of the political content that they want to see in the game and those that they don't. I mean, it was only, a few weeks back that people were raging against the Argentinian players after the World Cup semi-final with England, who brought out that disgraceful banner. And I think the football authorities can't have it both ways. Either they want politics in sport or they don't. But
can I just put one final question to you before I let you go before the news, and it's this: are you fearful that if we have taken that in football again and fans boo, some fans invariably will boo because they're sick of politics? You mentioned the Malvinas stuff. They want this gone. If fans start booing again, might we go backwards? Might this be used as proof there is racism in sport when people aren't racist? They're just fed up with all this virtue signalling.
Just be very quick. I think football generally has a good record, funnily enough, on race, even though a lot of people might think otherwise. But I think, as somebody else said elsewhere on GB News, if the authorities want to concentrate on dealing with racism, it's about the coaches and the disparity in terms of the poor number of actual coaches of colour that actually populate the game.
Kunle, it's been way too long. I just love talking to you. Next time, please come in and see me in Westminster. Let's go for a drink afterwards. And I hope your wife's doing well. Director of Voice for Change, Kunle Olalode. Thank you very, very much indeed. Magnificent. See, we can have these wonderful conversations on this channel. You don't get them anywhere else. I'm proud to work here, sincerely. Now, still to come, the majority of Londoners think London Mayor Sir City Khan should step down because quality of life in the capital is plunging. But for now, if you're travelling home from work, here's your traffic and your travel update. Stay safe and stick with us.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The M27 westbound is closed between junctions 9 and 8 in Bursleden. The M1 southbound is closed between junctions 14 and 11A in Luton. There is a collision on the M42 southbound between junctions 2 and 1 in Bromsgrove. The M6 is closed between junctions 18 and 19 in Middlewich. Across Wales, the M4 westbound from J38 Margam to J39 Grows is affected by a collision. And on the trains, Greater Anglia and Avanti West Coast are facing major disruption, with delays between Shenfield and Southend Victoria and between Milton Keynes and Watford Junction. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Showers for many of us during the rest of the day, but not for all. Some places will be dry with sunny spells. Wherever you are, it's going to feel on the cool side, certainly compared with summer so far, and indeed compared with what we'd expect at this time of year. A northerly breeze bringing those showers, especially to western, southwestern, as well as eastern shores, and those showers will continue into the evening, mostly southern parts of the UK, seeing the showers continuing inland, away from the coast. The showers eventually break away and clear skies prevail. 12 or 13 Celsius in the south, 8 to 11 further north, and in some shelter spots, low single figures. So for sheltered parts of Scotland and northern England, for example, a chilly start to Saturday. A touch warmer further south, but certainly fresher compared with so many mornings this summer. Plenty of sunshine through southern parts of England as well as into Wales. Further showers running into North Wales, northwest England, 1 or 2 trickling down the North Sea. Northern Ireland seeing a scattering of showers, likewise for the northwest of Scotland. In between, brighter spells. The showers nowhere near as frequent or as heavy compared with the second half of this week. We're looking at a general settling down of the weather heading into the weekend. High pressure building back, but this high is going to be a cooler high and temporary. Return to low pressure expected from next Tuesday. Temperatures up into the high teens, perhaps low 20s in places. So again, below average for the time of year. A notable cool feel compared with so many days this summer. Any showers that we do see on Saturday tend to fade away on Saturday night. Another chilly start in places on Sunday. Sunday's a mostly dry day, sunny in the south, cloudier further north, and then it's through next week we see the rain return.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back. Your time is 5:37. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, a new poll has revealed that most Londoners want Sir Sadiq Khan to stand down at the next mayoral election. That includes 31% of his own voters. Now, 56% say Labour should choose a different candidate in 2028, while 55% believe the capital has become a worse place to live since he took office in 2016. Well, let's now speak with the London Green Party councillor, a great friend of the show, Martin Abrams. Martin, how are you doing? It's been way too long. Confession, I've lived in London 32 years, and I'll be frank, it's given me a great career opportunity. Here I am, a son of a coal miner, talking on the TV in Westminster. But as a place, I think it's gone down the toilet. What say you?
Well, next year I celebrate my 20th anniversary moving to London, similar to you, Martin, a northerner in exile. And listen, I am incredibly proud to be an honorary Londoner now. And, it is absolutely one of the greatest cities on earth, but it's clearly in no ways perfect. And, as the leader of Lambeth Council now, residents talk to me all the time about issues that they're seeing. Mostly it's about housing. We've got 30,000 people on the council housing waiting list in Lambeth. We've got 4,000 people living in temporary accommodation. People living in really, really difficult conditions. London is an incredibly unequal city with some of the richest people in the world living here, but also some of the most deprived communities in the whole of the UK. And residents talk to me very regularly about things like crime and antisocial behaviour as being a real problem. And these are real concerns. And myself as a politician should absolutely not dismiss them. But there is this kind of framing that London has become some kind of crime capital, and that is just simply not borne out by the evidence when you look at the actual evidence. And whilst I have serious political differences with Sadiq Khan, in some respects around the most serious issues with crime, like homicides, the most serious violent crimes, they are falling quite significantly. So credit where credit is due on that.
Yeah, you've picked that crime stat. Let me give you a couple back at you. Rapes up 25% since 2015. There's a sex offence every 19 minutes in London. On transport, sexual harassment is rife. Something else has changed. I know Lambeth. I used to live in Lambeth. I bought my first house in Lambeth at a time when you could buy a house in London for £95,000. Now you'd be looking to get a flat for £500,000. Housing, a terrible problem. You can smell dope everywhere in Lambeth, in where I am, just on the border, around here in Westminster. And there's a feeling of a low-level attrition. And it's because, we have to be honest, of uncontrolled immigration. Now, let's just face it, we did a conversation earlier on about Barking and Dagenham being voted the least happy place to live in all of England. That's a borough of London. It was 98% white in 1961, and now it's 31%. Social housing is packed full of people who come from overseas. That exacerbates your housing problems in places like Lambeth, Martin. The city has changed, and many people feel it's changed for the worse.
Well, listen, Martin, London has always been a city where people have migrated to from its very creation, going back thousands of years when it was called Londinium, named by the Romans. You know, this place has always been a place where people have migrated to. And I'm incredibly lucky to lead a borough that is one of the most diverse, most culturally rich boroughs in the UK. But like I said at the top of the interview, it is also one of the most unequal boroughs in the UK. And yes, there are serious issues when it comes to things like housing. But, you know, and like I said, I have serious political differences with Sadiq Khan. We're in different political parties. You know, I don't think all the blame for that can be laid at Sadiq's door. This is the result of 40 years of neoliberalism, and I think we can look at the housing crisis starting with something called Right to Buy that one of your heroes, Margaret Thatcher, created back in the 1980s, which has decimated council housing stocks. And that's why in Lambeth we've got 4,000 families living in temporary accommodation, and we're paying out £100 million a year to private landlords because there's no council houses to house these people.
Martin, as a coal miner from Nottingham, to say that Margaret Thatcher is one of my heroes, you're on the wrong page, mate. But on a serious point, you're not addressing my points. You know, the amount of... You're correct to say London has always been diverse, but not at the rate of ingress that's happened. And, by the way, it's broadly reflected in all of our metropolitan areas. There's been a gigantic demographic change in a very, very short period of time. And when you are seeing the social housing situation, in some parts of London are 75% people born overseas taking social housing. That's not Margaret Thatcher's fault. That's not millionaires' fault. It's uncontrolled immigration. You have to admit it's an issue.
I mean, one of the biggest issues we're facing in Lambeth at the moment now, Martin, is the fact that we're losing people. We've got a net loss of 14,000 people in the last year.
Why do you think that is?
That's because London is becoming unlivable, mainly because of things like housing costs and the cost of living. And
all the things we've just discussed, crime, sex crime, rape, drugs.
We've got a real problem in London that people aren't having enough children because, A, you know, they can't afford to have children. You know, their housing situation, people living in flats, so they think, I don't want to bring a children up in a one-bedroom flat. So our schools in Lambeth and across London are facing a crisis of an increasingly reduced numbers, and obviously with the way that schools are run in terms of the per pupil funding, we're having to look at amalgamating schools and things like that. It is a real issue. But
okay, Martin, I want to ask you one final question because we've only got a short moment left. My missus is a teacher. I know all about it. I'm with you. Look, on a serious point. Should Sadiq Khan stand aside? A lot of people are quite surprised by the fact that you're allowed to be the Mayor of London forever. There are no rules about a set period of terms you're allowed to stand for. I mean, surely that's unhealthy. It's time for change.
Well, my prediction is, and you can get me back on the show when this comes true, is that Sadiq Khan isn't going to stand again. You know, he's been ennobled as a member of the House of Lords now, and I can see a trajectory for him becoming a member of Andy Burnham's inner circle within an Andy Burnham government. So it'll be Lord Sadiq, possibly Minister for London or something like that. But yeah, I think it is time for change in London, and the Green Party are going to be putting forward, an incredibly good candidate, and will be aiming to win that election in 2028.
All right, Martin Abrams, I really do appreciate your time. I think we've got a great deal in common. It'd be great to see you again soon. London Green Party Councillor Martin Abrams, thank you very, very much indeed for joining us. See, again, we're having another sensible debate about politics. We can agree to disagree, but we're getting somewhere, aren't we? Now, GB News has approached the Mayor of London's office for comment today. We'll bring you this once we have it. Now, coming up next, we're wishing you a very, very special happy birthday to the world's oldest person, Ethel Caterham from Surrey. She turns 117 years young today. We'll be paying tribute to her and finding out how we could all live as long as her. And warning, Mr. Motivator is with us next. But meanwhile, in search of some holiday sun, here's a forecast of some of your top European destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Thunderstorms are affecting parts of southern Alpine regions. It's turning quite wet and windy across parts of Spain and Portugal throughout this weekend. That's thanks to this area of low pressure that will sweep up across parts of Portugal, Spain and then into France through the start of next week. Elsewhere, though, that thundery downpour across Alpine regions does tend to fade away into this weekend. And across the Mediterranean, it's looking nice and warm and sunny. And that theme does continue as we head into next week as well. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
I remember it vividly, the first dogfight over Biggin Hill, over New Addington. And this particular morning, the war started. My mother had asked me to go and get her a pint of beer from she wasn't a drunkard or anything, but she liked to drink on a Sunday morning. So she said, "Oh, son," she said, "go down and get me a bottle of beer, will you?" I mean, all was quiet in the Western Front. So I said, "Yes, Mum." So I'm going down the road now. I hadn't gone quarter of a mile, and all of a sudden there's this confusion, all this noise and that, zooming and banging. I thought, what on earth's that? And I looked up, and there they were, dogfighting over New Addington.
GB News, the People's Channel. Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Joining us now is Head of Advocacy at Big Brother Watch, Jack Colson. Jack, interested to know your view on this. Why shouldn't I be able to wear my Meta glasses around?
Well, certainly there are times and places where Meta glasses might be of use, particularly for those with visual impairments. The technology really could be a breakthrough, but we see these as the tip of an iceberg. Meta's glasses have already been potentially linked to facial recognition technology, which really would be a stalker's charter. And we are operating in an environment where perpetrators of harassment feel safe to use this technology when really it's the public who ought to feel safe. So the government ultimately are going to have to explore restrictions on this kind of technology, and we're seeing civil society push back.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I have a real treat for you, because I have found women. Yes, and these women are badly behaved in Benidorm, and they've been here for, how long have you been here?
Since Tuesday. Yeah, just a week this time. Normally we do 2 weeks, but just a week this time.
And whereabouts in the UK are you from?
From Surrey. Surrey. Manchester. Salford. Doncaster.
Quite the mix, I would say. Are you getting ready to go into the strip?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, why not? It's iconic. We do culture first and then the strip. That's the right way round, right?
If you say so. Will you be out on the strip?
Most definitely, yet again.
And what's so attractive about it?
The strip or the culture?
The strip.
What am I allowed to say on TV?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. It's bang on 10 to 6 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, happy birthday to the world's oldest person celebrating her 117th birthday today, after a year of many firsts, including meeting the King and holding his hand. The legendary Ethel Caterham, who lives at the Hallmark Lakeview Care Home in Lightwater, Surrey, is spending the day with her family and friends to mark the very, very special occasion today. So what's the secret to enjoying a long and healthy life like Ethel? Well, let's now speak to somebody who knows all about being fit, active and keeping going. The legend is the fitness guru, Mr. Motivator. Mr. Motivator, it's a delight to have you on the show. You've been going like a trooper since I was a kid. You look as fit as a fiddle. You look as young as you did back in the day. If people are at home now and they want to live as long as Ethel, what can they do, mate?
I think she's a special breed, honestly. I mean, 117 is an incredible innings, and we don't know what her life has been like. But one's got to assume that, number one, she didn't have a lot of stress in her life. That's number one. Number two, I think she probably has a lot of love around her, and that really kind of matters. And number three, I'm sure if you check, you probably find that she used to walk right up until when she was 100 years of age. I think for the secret to long life is that we all need to reduce stress in our lives, get as active as we can, and also maintain the love of your life. Make sure that you do keep them in check. Make sure they're always with you. And that gives you the ammunition to really keep yourself going and keep yourself independent.
And Derek, she met her husband in 1931. Lifelong love. As you said, surrounded by love. She was driving until she was 97, and then she took up playing bridge, keeping the mind active, just keeping on going, keep on staying sharp.
Yeah, and I think that's really important for all of us. There are lessons to be learned, because there are too many people who retire and they sit around waiting to expire. But the point is, we don't know how long we have been given. And so therefore, to improve the quality of your life as you get older, it's so important that we move our bodies. And movement is medicine. And if you can include laughter in there, laughter and movement is the most wonderful medicine in the world. And that's why we have all got to strive to keep a community going in terms of movement in our lives. So in other words, if you've got a partner right now, start doing things individually. Start actually developing independent things that you can do, because one day you're going to lose one of those persons. One of you is going to go. So keep that going. And then on top of that, join in as many activities as you can. For example, I've got an activity happening in Telford on the 17th of October. Perfect for everyone, no matter what your age. So you can come along and try different movement classes, right? And if you want information, here's the tip. Write it down. Get in touch with Lish at mrmotivated.com, and you can find out all about it. But on top of that, let me just say this: smile a lot, laugh a lot, look after your independence, and remember, you've only got one life, and if you look after it, it's going to last you a lifetime.
Derek, you've been smiling and gyrating away for many, many decades. How do you keep your pecker up?
Listen, I train every single day. All right, we do live on TikTok, we do live on Instagram. We actually have a club that people can join. That means every day I've got to exercise. And with all of us, what we should be doing is ensuring, it's a bit like brushing your teeth. If one day you don't do it, you don't feel right. So therefore, you make exercise, movement part of your life. But you've got to choose wisely. Choose something you enjoy. Whilst the weather's like it is, we all can do everything. But when the winter months come on, we start going down. I want to keep you up. So remember this: every autumn, every tree's out there is going to lose their leaves. But guess what? In the spring, they're going to flower again. We are the same thing. The seasons of our life mean that we must look after ourselves while we can.
What a beautiful metaphor to end the show on today and the week. Derek Evans, of course, the fitness guru, Mr. Motivator. Thank you very much. Mind how you go. You're an absolute living legend, just like Ethel. Now, thanks for your company this week. I'll be back Monday, 3 p.m. Obviously, Nottingham Forest tomorrow. Come on, you Reds. We're going to beat Leeds United. Don't go anywhere, though, because up next is Jubes & Co. Tonight, ably held by Dawn Neeson.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Showers for many of us during the rest of the day, but not for all. Some places will be dry with sunny spells. Wherever you are, it's going to feel on the cool side, certainly compared with summer so far, and indeed compared with what we'd expect at this time of year. A northerly breeze bringing those showers, especially to western, southwestern, as well as eastern shores, and those showers will continue into the evening, mostly southern parts of the UK, seeing the showers continuing inland, away from the coast. The showers eventually break away and clear skies prevail. 12 or 13 Celsius in the south, 8 to 11 further north, and in some shelter spots, low single figures. So for sheltered parts of Scotland and northern England, for example, a chilly start to Saturday. A touch warmer further south, but certainly fresher compared with so many mornings this summer. Plenty of sunshine through southern parts of England as well as into Wales. Further showers running into North Wales, northwest England, 1 or 2 trickling down the North Sea. Northern Ireland seeing a scattering of showers, likewise for the northwest of Scotland. In between, brighter spells. The showers nowhere near as frequent or as heavy compared with the second half of this week. We're looking at a general settling down of the weather heading into the weekend. High pressure building back, but this high is going to be a cooler high and temporary. Return to low pressure expected from next Tuesday. Temperatures up into the high teens, perhaps low 20s in places. So again, below average for the time of year. A notable cool feel compared with so many days this summer. Any showers that we do see on Saturday tend to fade away on Saturday night. Another chilly start in places on Sunday. Sunday's a mostly dry day, sunny in the south, cloudier further north, and then it's through next week we see the rain return.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only